What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Long Run Podcast. This is Adam, and I'm joined by some of my favorite people in the entire world. We're going to be talking about the biggest movie of 2021, and no podcast debuts today, but we have someone returning. You know him, you love him, and you're going to have a great time once we introduce him. We're going to be talking about the latest and greatest of the MCU. I would call one of the greatest theater experiences I've ever had personally, and certainly one of the best of MCU Phase 4 by far. But no, we're going to talk about all that, but let's talk about the crew that's joining me today. First, it's going to be someone returning from the Hawkeye review, one of two people. Our resident doctor graduated from being a fan to being a part of the podcast. Gabe, how are you doing today, man?
Hey guys, thanks for inviting me back again. I'm super pumped. I really love this movie. Got a lot to say.
Okay. All right. You love to see it. And next to him, it is going to be the second person returning from the Hawkeye review. It's Donovan. He's returning once again to talk about MCU Phase 4. And for those of you who don't remember, he is the senior production coordinator on Valorant at Riot Games. Donovan, how are you doing today, man?
Man, we're vibing and thriving, all right? I'm ready to talk about Spider-Man. I'm ready to talk about Hawkeye. I'm ready to talk about Daredevil. We're talking about it all, okay? This
So I'm
is
going to talk
Power
about it
Hour.
all. Power Hour?
Power Hour.
Gabe has a different definition of Power Hour, but don't worry.
Uh-oh.
Now, Mark... damn it, I revealed who's coming. It's Mark, a veteran of the podcast, finally returning to its old stomping grounds. It's been a minute for sure, and we're just happy to have you back, man. How are you doing? We haven't seen you since Godzilla vs. Kong, man. It's been a long time.
Man. No, it's good to be back. I love doing these. They're always a blast.
Hell yeah, man. It feels good to hear your voice. It feels like home. You know, you've been a part of this podcast for a long time, so it feels good. So
yeah.
Today we're going to be...
Way home.
Oh, yeah. I see what you did there. So
No way home.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
I got you, Donovan. Don't worry. So today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, the third film in what I'm assuming is going to be a trilogy, potentially more, of the MCU in terms of Spider-Man. This is something that we've all been waiting for. And honestly, there's a bit of like a production story to this, right? After Far From Home came out, it seemed like that Disney and Marvel weren't going to make this Spider-Man movies anymore, right? Because that was the end of their film deal, right? But because of the public outcry from not only the fans, but also, from what I understand, a lot of like really personal work by Tom Holland, who talked to both CEOs on both sides to get a deal made, they're able to make a deal, right? And even the film that we all saw wasn't actually the same as what was initially conceived. From what I understand, the original concept for this movie was actually have Kraven the Hunter as the main villain, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. By the end of Far From Home, right, his identity is revealed. It would seem natural that if he's wanted, a hunter would kind of come out. But we had this film, and honestly, I'm really happy that we got this kind of film because Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a lot to talk about, but there's a lot of really amazing, incredible things like this that, one, I think are unprecedented, but two, I don't think we're ever going to see anything like this ever again. So we'll talk about that during this review for sure. Now, Donovan and Gabe, you know, you've already talked about your thoughts on the MCU and specifically Phase 4, so I don't think we want to repeat that exactly from Hawkeye. If you want to hear more, listen to the Hawkeye review, which is really good, by the way. But Mark, for you, you know, I know in the past you've talked a little bit about how you're a little superheroed out, just you know, a little jaded. But so, how have you been feeling about MCU Phase 4 in general, whether it be the movies or the TV shows?
It's like I'm like superheroed out is a good word for it. I think cynical a little bit. I'm a little more just jaded with these because I get what they're trying to do. Where it's like, all right, we had Endgame, now let's throw some more stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And it's like it's a smart move, but I don't know if it's a move that I really enjoy. At least not up until now, because it's like the Disney Plus shows. It's like WandaVision was pretty good. I didn't really bother with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I liked Loki. I did not care for What If. And then it's like Black Widow I still haven't seen. Shang-Chi I heard was really cool, but I still haven't gotten around to seeing. I saw Eternals, but that's because I got to see it for free. And that was not a great movie. It was interesting in how bad it was, but like I wouldn't. It feels like they haven't been hitting home runs. You know,
Right.
like
Right.
it feels like we're on a little bit of shaky ground, and it's just like it feels almost like it's been building to this, where it's like, oh, thank God, we've got a legacy character. Oh, finally, like we've got a sequel to a character who existed pre
Right.
Endgame.
Right.
You know, now we can exhale a little bit until we get to the Fantastic Four movie or the X-Men. Like they've been hovering over that glass, ready to crack it open whenever they
Right.
need an easy $1 billion. But no, and then it's like I enjoyed Hawkeye, but again, it was like it was pretty good. Didn't blow me away. But then you get this movie, and this is one of the most entertaining movies I've seen
Right.
in a very long time. I've seen it
Mhm.
3 times so far,
Woo.
and there has been very little fall off. I've had a blast each time that I watched it. This is a good ass movie.
Man, I'm not even gonna lie. Just with all that buildup of how much you've hated Phase 4, I was really like low key hoping you'd be like, and this movie came out and it fucking sucked. Like it was the worst thing I've ever seen. Spider-Man's awful.
That's the thing. I don't even really hate Phase 4. It's almost worse than if I hated it, and that it's just okay. It's just
I think that's
fine.
fair.
It's like, here's another Marvel thing, and I'm like, all right, this is like the 15th one. Could we either give me something that's like gets my attention and I'm engaged with? It's like I didn't think the Snyder Cut was perfect, but at least it was interesting and it had a lot
Right.
of stuff that kept me engaged. It's like I'd rather have something that's not great in interesting ways than something that's just kind of like going through the motions. And it feels like they've been stuck in a bit of a rut post Endgame of just like, where do we go now that we've blown this load that's been building for 10 years? What are we going to do?
Sure.
And the answer is this: we're going to do this Spider-Man movie.
Okay, all right. So let's hold on before we get to Spider-Man: No Way Home, because Mark, another thing I want to ask you, and then ask, of course, the other people on the podcast today. Mark, you are. Let's not mince words, Mark. You're a pretty big Spider-Man fan. I remember
a Spidey fan. I like Spider-Man.
I remember you in high school. You had the Spider-Man hat from Disneyland, bro. Like I remember.
Oh yeah.
So you're a pretty big Spider-Man fan. How did you feel? You know, because this movie is clearly something that's a lot more than just being the third MCU Spider-Man movie. Have you felt about Spider-Man as a character as well as those previous movies that we've seen?
So it's complicated because, like, just to start at the very beginning, like Toby, I'm always going to be biased. I saw those movies when I was young. That was part of what got me into Spider-Man. And looking back, I appreciate them in different ways than I did as a kid. Maybe that's just being like broken in my mid-20s.
Sure.
I appreciate more the hangdog down on his luck, kind of goofball dope Spider-Man a little bit more. But no, those are always going to be classics. The Andrew Garfield ones, I still haven't seen Amazing 2. I got it at some point just because I've heard how rough it is. But
yeah.
That one, like those ones, I mean, those are one of those projects where it's like they're only making it to hold on to the rights, and it suffered from that because it was so soon after Toby that they had to figure out, all right, well, how do we do it differently? And the answer was to change things in very superficial but overall meaningless ways.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, Uncle Ben isn't going to say with great power. He's going to say the same thing, but with different words, you know? He's going to have a skateboard for the first act of the first movie. Like,
right.
just shit that doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter. And the Tom Holland ones, I think, kind of suffered from that a little bit too, where it was just change for change's sake. Where you had Homecoming, which I enjoyed. I enjoy all the MCU Spider-Man stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like sometimes you just want some good old Spider-Man shit. And it's like Homecoming was novel in that it felt like they had a list of, all right, what's everything you've seen before in a Spider-Man movie? You know, you've seen it ends with a funeral. You've seen him swinging through the city. We're not going to do any of that. He's stuck in the suburbs for part of it. He's got to go to Washington, D.C. Like, you see a bunch of different stuff. Far From Home, it's like I enjoyed that. I don't think I watched it since the theater, and I don't really feel the need to. It was pretty good.
Mhm.
And then you get to this one, and it feels like their mission statement for this one was, how can we make Mark specifically really, really happy? Because I had my issues with the Tom Holland character or take on the character, even though for the most part I think he does a really good job.
Right.
This movie gives me everything that I wanted to see this take of the character deal with and go through and grow into in one movie, and I love that about it.
Okay. Gabe, I saw you nodding a lot. So how about you, man? How you feel about the former Spider-Man movies, and just Spider-Man as a character? I know Hawkeye is your favorite Avenger. I know we established that last time. But where does Spider-Man fit into that mold?
So Spider-Man for me, he's the OG. Tobey Maguire is the one that got me into comics in the first place.
Right.
I mean, I saw the first X-Men when it first came out. It was all right. But Spider-Man, some dude from New York, he's the guy that got me into like this spiral of like geek and nerddom that I am right now. So I
Right.
guess I can thank him for that. I mean, and I've been kind of just following Spider-Man ever since. I really liked Toby's my best, my favorite. Andrew
Mhm.
Garfield was good in his own right, which I guess we can talk about a
Oh,
little
we'll
later.
talk about it. Don't worry. We'll
Oh, yeah.
talk about Andrew.
And then Tom Holland fit in this whole new MCU thing, So it's
Yeah.
interesting because I've had a Spider-Man in every like kind of like major part of my life through my life, pretty much. So he's
Right.
always been there. So it means a lot to me, and this movie really like hits on all fronts.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can talk about like how I felt about it later, but I mean
Right.
that's I guess that's my history.
Sure. Donovan, how about yourself, man? You've been talking a lot about MCU Phase 4 and all that. I know you're a pretty big Marvel fan, but how does Spider-Man fit in for you in all those movies or anything else? Spider-Man as a character, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I resonate a lot with what Gabe said, like Spider-Man as a character, like being from the East Coast, like this dude in New
Mm-hmm.
York coming kicking ass, like being awesome. Like he was always my favorite superhero um before like the MCU back when it was just the comics, and I was never even really that into the comics, but it was just the
Right.
character itself I thought was just super cool. um, and you know, got involved with the movies. Spider-Man was my first superhero movie that I ever saw,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Tobey Maguire was. I don't know, like he was such a dork, but I loved him so much. Like he was
Yeah.
so cool. Like he's just like growing, doing his thing. Like I loved those movies so much. I remember being in like middle school, like just being like, oh man, we're gonna go see Spider-Man. It's like they got I didn't even because I didn't even know the characters. I was like, we got edgy Spider-Man. Like he's wearing a black suit now. I didn't know it was like the Venom suit or all this sort of stuff. Like I didn't know the background. I just thought the characters were really cool and everything they were
Right.
doing. And so growing up with that character, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which like you said, we'll get into. I enjoyed those movies, but I think I was very hard on them, um, as were a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
because what they wanted them to be and what they weren't. Um, and I kind of want to like go back and rewatch those movies now after seeing No Way Home and be like, will I see this with a new lens? Like, what are things that I missed that were really, really great about this series that maybe I just didn't even realize or pay attention to? Um, but I really, really, really liked Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I don't know
Right.
what it was about it specifically, because I think there are things about his Peter Parker character that are a little bit weird. There's things about his Spider-Man character that are a little bit weird, but there's also things about both that I think are really, really cool. And he also has the luxury of like standing on top of the shoulders of like these MCU giants that are like
Right.
helping, like Tony Stark was a big part of that series when he wasn't at all in all the previous ones. So I really loved the No Way, like the Far From Home, Homecoming, No Way Home trilogy.
Yeah.
Um and I came into this movie with high expectations and it smashed them. Like it gave me that huge nostalgia wave that I like cherished, that I forgot that I cherished.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me so much more, and we'll get into all that. But TLDR, huge fan of Spider-Man. the character itself, and a huge fan of what they were able to accomplish in this movie, because they did reach for the fucking they reached for the galaxies. I don't even know.
Sure.
That was crazy.
Well, it seems like all of us, all four of us, are big Spider-Man fans because I'm the same way, boys. I'm right there next to you. Spider-Man the Animated Series is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. Mark and I have also talked about the Spectacular Spider-Man Animated Series.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing series. I still remember watching Spider-Man 2, one of the first movies I ever saw in a theater. Still one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's still one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Easily top 10. And even Spider-Man as a character in terms of the comics, really, when I was young, I read a whole bunch of classic comics, and the only one I read a lot of, I've read the entire Lee and Ditko run of Spider-Man sort of thing, and I did that as a kid because I loved the character so much. Andrew Garfield movies, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't that big a fan of them, but Andrew Garfield is definitely, we'll talk about it a little bit for sure. And then this MCU Spider-Man, I'm kind of like in the middle there too, where there's a lot of things I really like. I love seeing him playing in that Avengers world, but it certainly wasn't the kind of Spider-Man that I'm used to, the one that I remember from the comics and things like that. Spider-Verse, something that we haven't mentioned. Great movie, amazing movie. I know Donovan is a huge
Don't
fan.
even get me fucking started on it. Such a mwah, chef's kiss. Perfect.
Spider-Verse is a great movie, and honestly, I was trying to go into this because I could feel the hype was building, and I couldn't tell if it was because guys, the pandemic's been a little long. Like, we need something to look forward to, right? But the other thing is too, I kept on hearing rumblings about that multiverse, and I tried my best not to get spoiled or know what was going on going into this movie. I tried to go with low expectations, saw it with a crew, which was great, and I'm right there with all of you, man. This movie is one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. I don't know if I would say it's one of the absolute best Spider-Man movie that I've ever seen, but guys, this is the first true home run of the MCU Phase 4, and I'll also say this is a movie. If you still haven't seen it yet, this is a movie that needs to be experienced in a theater. 100% needs to, right? And I think that in of itself is such a special thing that I could only think of a handful of movies where I would say that sort of thing.
I wanted to ask, what's your guys' movie theater experience watching this? Because
Oh, man.
this will go into mine a little bit, but I saw this the night it came out.
Ooh.
This was before Omicron came out.
Okay.
And it was like a packed theater. It was like midnight, and it was really interesting because it was a mix of all ages. There were little kids, way past their bedtime, mind you, on a school night, and then there was people my age, and then there was their parents, and then what I noticed was everybody enjoyed it. Everyone was hype, and I think that really added to the whole experience, which I thought was sick. Kind of like you guys were saying, this is my second, after Endgame, this is one of the top movie experiences I've ever had, but yeah, I just want to ask what your movie theater experiences were like, because I think that's super interesting and plays a lot into how we enjoyed the movie.
Well, so I'm actually super interested to hear what Mark has to say about this, because Mark is a manager at one of our local movie theaters. So I'm sure you've seen it 3 times, right? You said?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you definitely have a lot of experience, and I'm sure that you've seen the gamut, right, in terms of opening, second viewings, third viewings. So what's been your experience like, man, in the theater?
Well, the first time I saw it was the employee show, so we got to watch it the day before it dropped, and it was everybody who worked there, who were all big comic book superhero, everybody came out for this one, even the people who had to be in at 9 a.m. the next day to open. We invited a bunch of people from a local comic shop because they helped us do a promotion. So they were all in there. It was not a full theater, mind you, but it was a pretty packed theater for one of those employee shows. And no, it was great. There were all sorts of pop-offs and everything. I mean, as you'd expect.
Right.
Whenever I could grab a moment, I kind of got it down to okay, this show went in this time. Around this time is when that scene ought to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I could tear myself away, I'll go just roll into a theater, see if I could hear the way people were reacting. Maybe it was just because it was mostly daytime shows, but I didn't hear too many huge pop-offs when I went in there. But the second time I saw it with you, Adam, with all the guys, was actually one of the few times that I've actually like joined in a pop-off in a theater. I'm normally not the guy who sits there and claps. I'm too cool for that. But this one, it was just a fun, like, communal experience. Like, it was one of those moments where it's like, nah, this is a roller coaster. This is a party. Everybody's having a good time, and even still now, like we've it's obviously dropped off a lot since when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
But you still see, like, even in theaters that only have like 15-20 people in them, like you can still hear a couple, like, gasps or whoops or whatever when crazy stuff happens.
Right.
And it's I feel like this is, you have like the dark side of that where it's just like really cynical and annoying, like the memory I always go to is when I saw Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like all the stupid cameos in that, like near the end when R2D2 and C3PO are just hanging out.
Right.
And there was this guy behind me who was just full on, like, and he was the only one in the theater doing that. And it's like, relax, buddy. Come on. Chill. But then you go to this one and it's like, no, clap. This is great. We're all having a great time. Clap. Join in. And I don't know. I liked it. It's a feel-good theater experience.
So 2 questions for you, or on what you're saying. I usually don't clap or like yell in movie theaters. I've only done that twice. Once during Endgame, during that scene, and then again during this movie. And I guess I can tell you when. And then second thing is, how do I get into those employee? How do I want to get into that. I thought I was being like,
hook me up with an invite too, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that after the review.
I mean, I'm surprised. I don't know, man. My movie theater experience, though, I enjoyed it, but I also kind of remembered after not being in theaters for a while, like, and maybe this is an awful take, and it probably is, but there was just some moments in the theater where I was just like, man, I kind of wish this theater was fucking empty. Like, there was just so dude, I swear to God, at one point during the movie, like, someone says Spider-Man, like, in the movie, someone says the name Spider-Man, and I just heard someone play in the fucking back of the theater with their bit-crushed iPhone voice, just do 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 do, and I was like, bro, what is going on? Come on, man. Come on, man. Someone yelled at one point too, that's the guy from Fortnite. I'm not even making this up. Like, I was just like, can you guys shut the fuck up? I'm trying to watch this movie. Dude, I forgot how much I hate people. Maybe this pandemic was... Never mind. I'm going too far.
But that one guy in ours where, like, his like diabetes machine was going off and like flashing strobe light every 20 minutes.
Yeah. At one point during the movie too, like, you know how we have every theater has like these emergency exits and shit where you can like go out if there's an emergency. Someone just fucking walks through the theater, goes out the side exit. Everyone gets blinded by the light outside. I'm like, bro, take the fucking normal exit. What's the emergency? Like, why are you doing that?
Aren't they
Like,
supposed
what's
to
going
alarm?
on? And like, these 3 things happened all during the same movie, and I'm like, am I in a fucking simulation? Like, what's going on here? Like, can we chill the fuck out? So I think, honestly, if it's still in theaters, I think now's the time to go see it in theaters where there's less people, there's less fucking mouth breathers that are gonna do some stupid shit. They're fucking 12-year-olds thinking they're the king of comedy, being like, oh, that's the guy from Fortnite, or someone else yelling like Aaron Yeager or some shit. Dude, I'm sick of it. We're done here.
It's something about Spider-Man. It like I know I just gave like a glowing review of like, yeah, see it with people, clap and cheer. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's the light side. The dark side you don't see is people who were there opening weekend and got their seats confused with somebody else and legit like almost threw hands within like 30 seconds.
Dude, it's insane. fine.
in my seat.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Ding ding. Like we had to. It was wild. It was wild. There were some confrontations. People do not like their Spider-Man being fucked with in any capacity.
I was gonna say, if anyone has had poor theater experiences, Mark, I'm sure you could tell us. Like, we could do an entire podcast on your worst theater experiences.
Dude, I've seen TikToks of like people that work at theaters like filming after the event, just the amount of like junk and shit
Oh
that
yeah.
people just left in the theater. I'm just like, bro, clean up after yourself. What is going on? Just bring it to the garbage. But this is not about the movie
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
I hate society, but that's just me being a boomer, you know? That's esports, baby.
I was about to say, Donovan, as you would always say, that's esports, baby.
That's esports, baby.
So, to answer your question, Gabe, I had a really good experience. Mark was there. You were sitting next to me, Mark, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it was you or Clemson, but he was sitting right near me. I had a terrific theater experience. People were cheering, and just like Gabe, I've only ever cheered once before this in a movie, and it was during Endgame. It was when your boy Captain America got that hammer. You already know your boy stood up and raised his fist. He was cheering, okay? And I'll have you know, I watched that in IMAX at 3 a.m. in New York, and you already know New York goes in those theaters, okay? The entire time I watched Endgame, your boy behind me, he was having a commentary of the movie. He was like, "Oh," it was the most hilarious comments. Normally, I'd be real pissed off about it, but he was too funny for me to care. Now, when it comes to this movie, though, right? So this is the third movie in the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, directed by John Watts, starring all of our favorites, that sort of thing. Also, full spoiler. We're going to the full spoilers here.
Spoilers.
As always with our review. So if you don't want to hear this stuff, leave now, sort of thing.
Snape killed Dumbledore, man.
Right. So let's set the stage a little bit. Right at the end of Far From Home, Mysterio, in his dying, as he was dying, he reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man to the world. Right, and we also see J. Jonah Jameson with J.K. Simmons returning. Thank the Lord, what a guy! Just a national treasure. Returning, right? So that becomes the core conflict of this movie, right? Where Peter Parker, aka Tom Holland in this instance, is trying to figure out how he's going to live his life and the impact of knowing that his secret identity is out there. And we see that during that first hour that he's really, really dealing with that. So I guess my question to the three of you, right, in this first hour, did you think that it was kind of a good follow-up to that? Did you think it moved a little too quick? Because I thought that was a great ending for Far From Home. I was like, wow, I can't wait to see where they kind of go from here. So, in this kind of opening first hour, first act sort of thing, tell me how y'all felt.
I think it was good. I enjoyed it. I think that there were some aspects of it that didn't really make too much sense to me. Like it felt like they were just going like really, really quick intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just Spider-Man, like this dude works with the Avengers and you're gonna like try and like set him in jail. Like you're not gonna cut him any sort of slack. Like after he just got his identity like he's helped literally save the fucking planet. Like these Avengers, they can't catch no break, dude. Falcon can't get a fucking loan from the goddamn bank. Spider-Man gets accused of being a murderer and they're just like, all right, I guess we're gonna fucking he sucks now, I guess. Like no one's giving these guys any breaks, but I thought it was good. I really, really enjoyed the Matt Murdock cameo.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that was really, really exciting for me. I didn't even hear rumblings of it. I was just like,
yeah, same.
I had no idea that was coming. And as someone who really, really loved the Daredevil like Netflix series, that was a moment where I was like, like I gasped and I was just like I was vibing with it. But I get why it did go fast because like this ain't the meat and potatoes of the movie. This is kind of just like the whatever. And then everyone also forgot. Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't perfect, but you know, I was fucking with it, you know? I was fucking with it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much what you said. Like this movie wants one thing and one thing only, and it's fucking awesome. You know, like I mean, you know why we're here. We're here for the multiverse stuff. This whole hour is like the whole out. I feel like to me, like the first beginning was like the whole, you know, fallout of him finding out it was Spider-Man and all that stuff. I don't think they really did that very well. I'm going to be honest. They kind of rushed through it. Like the whole Matt Murdock scene was there to be like, oh yeah, there are some legal implications to finding out you're Spider-Man. Like, I guess that's a thing. But, they just kind of just skip through that, I feel like, into to go into the real thing we're here for.
Right.
So I think this movie had one thing in mind, and we were all there for it. Like I think also so I was thinking about this this movie was a really great event, but if you sit there and nitpick it as a movie, it kind of falls apart in some places. And I think the first hour is really where it happens a lot.
Yeah.
I think the stuff with the colleges and stuff like that. All right, I feel like one college would take them at least.
Who wouldn't want to be like, yeah, I have a student that saved the universe at attending my college? Like, huh? What?
Because J. Jonah Jameson is the Joe Rogan of this universe. So you would want you think at least one college be like, hey, we would definitely at least consider this kid a community college or something. I don't know. And they're trying to go to MIT, which I understand, but come on, MIT, dude. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't really have much to say about it because I honestly to be honest, I really don't remember very much.
I get you, and I'll let you, Mark, kind of finish this out. But I know for me, I thought the first hour was good. I love the Daredevil cameo, kind of what Donovan mentioned. I was not expecting that at all. I remember I read the article that Feige was like, well, if we were to do Daredevil, Charlie Cox would certainly play. And I was like, that's a really weird thing to say, Kevin, but okay. And I never connected the dots, sort of thing. And I thought that the humor was good in this first half, this first act. I remember when they finally make it back to Aunt May's apartment, and Aunt May and Happy are in the middle of a breakup, and I was like, oh, this is pretty funny. Or the part where they open the door and Peter had walks in, and then he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I thought it was pretty funny. I remember the part where Ned was getting interviewed by the Department of Damage Control, and they basically trick him into saying that, yeah, I was the guy behind the chair. It was really cool. We did this, this, and this, or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's some good humor, but I definitely agree with Gabe in that this movie didn't pick up for me until Doctor Strange and Spider-Man actually fight, and we'll get there when we get there, sort of thing. But I definitely kind of feel that. I remember when they were making the spell, and Doctor Strange was like, "Stop! Making me make modifications." Bro, you're the Sorcerer Supreme. You couldn't just be you couldn't tell him from the beginning, hey. So before we start the spell, is there anything you want to make sure knows that you're still Spider-Man? He's an adult. He couldn't have said that. Bro,
dude, it's insane. Doctor Strange is the fucking worst doctor superhero I've ever. I don't even know what the fuck he is. How is he so stupid? Why did this happen? This whole movie could have been prevented if he just used his fucking brain cells. Sorry. Well, I'll let you continue on. Dude, the fucking doctor's stupid. I hate this guy.
I agree with you, dude. Okay, I feel not everyone needed to know. I feel okay, when he called out him, is MJ dating you because you're Spider-Man? I was like, oh shit. But MJ should have known. Ned maybe. Yeah. But Aunt May, I feel you can just tell Aunt May. You can just, she's your aunt. She's your mom, I feel you can tell him that. And then my question is in the first movie, didn't Spider-Man show up to her fundraiser or something? So what happens? Some random guy shows up? I don't know. There's a lot of plot holes if you sit there and think about it.
I think it's magic.
Yeah,
I think that's just their out is because I saw a lot of people questioning that, where they're like, okay, well, Ned was doing Spider-Man stuff with him through the whole of Homecoming.
Right.
What's that going to be? And it's all that stuff still happened. He's just going to remember it as something else. That's what I assume the explanation is going to be. Is the spell just when you put patch sealer on a cracked wall, it's just going to fill in all the divots and smooth it over.
Right.
And everything's just going to kind of work out.
Yeah.
It's magic. I ain't got to explain shit. As the old adage goes.
Yeah, and like Gabe said, they were definitely okay, this was a great premise, but we all know what we're trying to go towards, so we're gonna ruin this great premise. Sorry, that's just a casualty of this movie, sort of thing. But Mark, how about yourself, man? How'd you feel about this first act?
I really enjoyed it. That's one thing that I really, really like about this movie that I think they really nailed was the pacing. Because this is a big fucking movie. It's 2.5 hours long, and it's got so many moving parts. It's got Peter, Ned, and MJ. It's got the college thing. It's got Doctor Strange. It's got the Sinister Six. It's got those other fellas. It's got Daredevil. It's got all this stuff going on, and it does not. It's the same thing that people have said about the Avengers and about Infinity War and about Endgame, and that this on paper this should be a big clusterfuck, but it's not.
Right.
It does not feel its length, and it gets everything out of the way nice and smoothly. If you look at it under a fine-toothed comb, then it's, you know, you'll of course find little things there, but while you're watching it, it's not a real bumpy ride. It's nice and smooth. I think it does a good job in that first act, just setting the stage and getting you excited, and just building the tension. Because every time I saw it, there's one specific moment where like I kept noticing that every time there would be a scene happening on rewatches, I'd remember like, oh, and next comes this part. I'm excited to get to that. There's a good line there. Or, oh, you know, next is a scene where Daredevil shows up. I love that cameo. Let's get to there. And it's like there's always something to look forward to.
Right.
And once he's on that bridge, and you hear the spider sense sound effect, and the fucking Doc Ock tentacles come up, that's when like the overarm restraints come down. It's like the ride's starting now.
Right.
You've been through the queue, now you're on the roller coaster, and you're not getting off until you're back at the station. It begins.
Man, Alfred Molina is something else, man. I forgot how much I love this man in this role. He is so good, even in this scene and later on. But I know Gabe and Donovan, y'all probably got a lot to say about this, but I just want to throw that out. Alfred Molina, like, he is one of the best parts of this movie to me.
He slips right back into it. The third thing he says is the power of the sun in the palm of my hand, and it's like 20 years have not passed. I loved it.
It was so good, man.
That's one thing about this movie that I think really means, like, accounts for a lot, is just the sheer amount of time that I had a big goofy fucking smile on my face. I feel like if you timed that, like, time spent with a big dumbass smile to runtime, it'd be like a big ass percentage of it. I loved it.
Hell yeah, man. So Gabe, is this where it picked up for you?
Oh, 100%. Once you hear that, you know, it was like a roller coaster ride all the way through. But kind of like you were saying, Mark, like, this movie like knows its audience and knows how much Spider-Man is to everyone. And like, it was kind of like meta and self-referentials in some ways, but like when they go off with like the power of the sun in your hands, like, they know it's for the fans who watch the OG series, you know, and they lean into that. And honestly, I'm usually not about it, but in this case, in this movie, I was like, every single like reference or like joke, you know, I was all for it. I was like, this is great. I love this so much.
And like, it all fit too. Like, it wasn't like, I never thought I'd have to bring up Rogue One again in this episode, but like, there's that scene in Rogue One where they're on some random planet and they run into the "I don't like you" guy,
right?
And it's like, that was like, you get like a chuckle out of that, but not because you're enjoying it, because it's like, what the fuck, what's that guy doing here? There's a lot of references in this, but none of them felt like obtrusive. Like, even the really like obvious, you know, I'm something of a scientist myself. It's like, get out of here, you know.
Right.
It's all built. It's all in service of just having a good time.
Yeah, same page for me, man. Donovan, what you think about this, man? When we finally see Doc, when the ride gets started, how are you feeling? Was this after or before the Fortnite kid said that Spider-Man?
This was before. He said that when fucking Tobey Maguire came on screen.
Oh my god.
That's a little bit later. But this absolutely is where it started picking up. I think, like, kind of like what Mark already said, like the roller coaster was going, and I was having a good time. We were strapped in. But I feel like now that I'm thinking about it too, like, this movie had like a lot of like huge drops where it's just like this Doc Ock moment. He comes out and it's like huge, then it just like starts to slowly build back up. There's like some little twists and turns here and there, like, and those are like the quip moments. But it's like, wow, like there was a lot of interesting shit going on just from them, like how they chose to pace the movie, and I thought that was
Yes.
really cool. But the fight as it starts to go into it, like, is just like, wow. Like all the new technology that they had, like to watch Spider-Man 2,
Mm-hmm.
the original, where Doc Ock was like there doing his thing. Like, he looked great in that movie. The technology in it was awesome. But seeing it here again, like with the new advancements and how everything felt like just a little bit more fluid without feeling like a CGI typical Marvel fight, I thought that was awesome. And man, like that was such a well choreographed fight too. And
Yes.
I typically feel like most Marvel movies, Shang-Chi was the first exception in a long time that I could even think of, if ever, where like I felt like, wow, great choreography. The
Right.
choreography in this fight and in all of the rest of the fights for the movie, in this movie for the most part, fantastically choreographed. And it was just a blast to watch him like diving through the things, like Doc Ock's picking up the fucking water things, boom, throwing them, fucking tussing cars and shit. I was like, this is what I'm here for, baby. We're fucking in it.
I
We're out
really like
here.
how like Doc Ock like moves. You know, he moves like
Yeah,
really.
So
You know,
smooth.
he fights really differently, and I thought I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I guess that's they find new ways to like have him move and like he's trying to crush his head and stuff like that. I was really cool, and
He's
like I
such a
guess
cool character. And
he
like
really
I
is.
was worried when they announced that, oh yeah, we won't be using puppets for the tentacles, because for me that's a big part of the charm of Spider-Man 2 is how they had to make these physical things that could click open and produce little smaller claws and like pour him a drink and light him a cigar and do all these amazing practical things. It's so cool. I love watching that featurette. Uh, but no, he looked great in this. Like, it's, it's no puppets, but at the same time, like the way he moved, the way he looked, it's like it's like I said, it's like no time has passed.
Yeah, and look, we've I think we've made this pretty clear. This is a movie for the fans, and if you've grown up like all of us have in terms of watching the original trilogy, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, like this is just something that we'd never see before, and just the idea of being able to see Doc Ock again in all of his glory, because Spider-Man 2 is the best of that trilogy. Sorry, not sorry. It's
Agreed,
so good.
100% agreed.
It just feels so good to see him back, and it also feels good because all right, this is where we get the context of the scene, or in terms of the story. Excuse me. Where basically we find out that Doc Ock thinks that he's still fighting Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and Tom Holland's all like, "Yo, who is this guy? What is happening right
Yeah.
now?" Sort of thing, and that's where we get those kind of funny character dynamics, sort of thing, of like, okay, so this is actually what's going on here. Like, it's not that Doc Ock is like, oh yes, this is actually, he knows who Tom Holland is, sort of thing. Like, there's that funny part where like takes off like the nanobots, like, who the hell are you, sort of thing. Like, I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty good. And it was I also, just to add on to what you guys said, like in terms of the fight, I'm also really glad that it didn't overstay its welcome. Like, it was a roller coaster and a really, really good fight, but it wasn't overly long, right? It wasn't like, okay, like let's move, let's keep going, sort of thing. Perfectly paced, and that's something that I really love about this movie, and something that Marcus kind of touched about. Like, to be clear, even though I think the first act is the weakest part of this movie, I was never bored or thought it was bad. It was just like, okay, like I don't really see why everyone loves this movie so much, sort of thing. Because going in, I had heard like, yo, you need to see this movie. It is so good. It is so good. And like in that first like act, I was like, yeah, it's good. Like, I don't really see what the big deal is. But then we kind of get introduced to this whole concept, right? So they get transported back to Sanctorum, saying Doctor Strange's house. To his
At his crib.
to his basement. Actually, technically, it's Wong's house because now he's the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, very true.
As he should be, by the way.
My favorite part is how Wong is like, yo, don't do anything stupid. And then he leaves, and then he's just like, please don't do anything stupid. Wong knew, bro. He knew it was going to happen.
He
I like all the play Wong has been getting lately.
Yeah.
I feel like they're finally realizing what a good thing they got with Wong.
He's so good. And Doctor Strange is jealous that he's the sorcerer, whatever. Bro, you suck, Doctor Strange. You suck, bro. You've done nothing. Nothing.
I'm really happy too because I felt like low key I was mad disappointed with Wong in Infinity War when you're like the Earth is getting attacked, bro. The universe is at stake. He goes to Tony. He's like, "Yo, Tony, I gotta watch the crib, man. I'm sorry. You go handle it. I'll see you." It's like, no, what, bro?
I
What?
got some magic shit to do. Bye.
It's like, hello. I know my master just got kidnapped, but I gotta watch the crib. Sorry, like, bruh. Anyway, so
No, Adam, there's a thing you mentioned that I'd like to
sure, go ahead.
expand upon. There is you're saying like this is a movie for the fans,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say it feels. I think part of the reason why I'm so like up on this movie is because this is one of the few, if not like one of the first times that I feel I could say, yeah, this is something for the fans, and not say it like cynically.
Right.
Or sarcastically, because
Mm-hmm.
I just did a video review about Ghostbusters Afterlife,
Mm-hmm.
and like to use that as an example where a lot of the things in that you watch all the pre-release B-roll and they're like, we're making something for the fans, this is something for the fans, it's for the fans, and it's like, all right, what'd you put in here that's for the fans? And it's like, well, we reference Twinkies, we reference Spores, Molds, and Fungus, we reference Stay Puft, we reference Gozer. And it's like, yeah, okay. This one is all right. What are people who like Tom Holland? What are people who like Andrew Garfield? What are people who like Tobey Maguire? All these Spider-Man movies. What do they want to see? Let's put all that in there, but also let's make it a good movie that has like stakes and plot and does things that are new and moves things forward and doesn't just sit around like just jerking off to the past. Like there's some substance here. There's something you could bite into here. It's not just, I'm something of a scientist myself. It's like Tom Holland has growth here. He has shit to do. And I think that makes all the difference.
Yeah, something that I want to touch on and building off that, because I know, Gabe, you have mentioned this before we started the review. This is a movie, yes, it's for the fans, but also, more than anything, I think it's a movie about legacy, right? Like, and when I say that, I mean that, like you said, Mark, they didn't just, like, throw these guys in there and be like, oh, go have fun in the sandbox sort of thing. Every single character goes through some sort of an arc. Like, it's not just we're throwing Doc Ock in there. Oh, we're throwing Doc Ock in here from a certain point in that Spider-Man, Raimi timeline, and giving him, like, continuing that story sort of thing, right? When we meet the other Spider-Man later, and we'll get to that scene, trust me. When we meet the other Spider-Man, right, they're continuing their stories too, right? So it's not just that, oh, they're here to play. It's everyone is going through a story, and I think that's what makes this movie so compelling, right? Because we know Toby, we know Andrew, and we know Tom, and we know these other villains, and we've seen what they want, what they've done before, and we all want to see where they're going to go from here, right? We're all invested, and I think that's so critical to what makes this movie work.
I wasn't rolling my eyes. I didn't feel like I was pandered to. It wasn't just things I know. It was things I know, yeah, but they're acting the way I feel they should act, and they're all in new environments doing new things.
Right.
We get the fact that we get to see Dr. Octopus talking to Norman Osborn, that we get to see Electro, we get to see the Lizard again, but it's not just, oh, look, there they are. They're in a new place. They're doing new things. They're interacting with new characters. And it's like, Doc Ock, I think, is the best example of that, where they slap the new chip on him, and it's like, yeah, he's not evil anymore.
Right.
It's a completely new direction for this character, because that's the way this would play out. We're in new territory. We're not just retreading the past to give you those good nostalgic memberberry feels. There's new shit coming to light here.
Yeah,
it's great.
They definitely don't mash that nostalgia button. Like oh, we gotta hit it. You gotta give him something. Otherwise, we're gonna lose him, sort of thing. There's genuine kind of direction here. Gabe, I know you're the one who first brought up Legacy, right? So is that how you kind of saw it when you're watching this movie? Well, how do you think Legacy plays into this movie?
So I think, just to answer your first question, I think what I thought about this movie, well, when I thought about afterwards, I thought of two things. I think it's a celebration of Spider-Man,
yes,
and almost like a redemption as well. Kind of like what you were saying, Mark. Like, it's for the fans. Everything that's there is for a reason. But they also took the aspects that people didn't like as much, and they kind of like fixed them, or they kind of like, gave them a new light. Just like, I guess, the Andrew Garfield thing, Spider-Man in general, right? Like, for example, Electro, they just totally changed his character, you know. And honestly, like it worked on a meta level and it was on a comic, like a movie level as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like Jamie Foxx and Andrew Garfield got their redemption from their movie. Not a redemption, but like were able to play the character how they really wanted to be played.
Right.
You know, so they kind of like quote unquote redeemed themselves as well. I think redemption's like a big part of this movie, like a theme too. So I guess it works in a, like I was saying, like as a theme as well as like a meta level in the movie and like outside the movie.
Right. Absolutely. Domin, anything you want to add here? I know we've been talking a lot about Spider-Man and all these different versions of Spider-Man, but how did it play into your head when you were watching?
You know, not too much to add, honestly. I'm just, man, I just want to see this fucking movie again. To be honest, like
Same, man.
I'm just like for the past 5 fucking minutes. I'm not even kidding you. I've just been thinking about every single like scene that's happened in the movie since talking about the Doc Ock fight scene, and I'm just like, bro, this shit was incredible.
I'm gonna be real. I'm playing in
I'm
another tab.
reliving the fucking movie through my memory bank right now. Like it's just playing. Fuck, it's so good.
I'm
For
gonna,
no
I'm
reason.
gonna be real. I open it up on 1, 2, 3 movies and just skip to the Doc Ock fight. Just in another tab, and I'm like, ooh, here comes this scene. Ooh,
Turn on the screen.
it's fun. It's a fucking fun ass movie.
I want to be very clear. We do not endorse anything about sailing the high seas. But
Go to your local cinema.
Yes,
and buy lots of concessions when you do.
Support your local cinemas, everyone.
Support your local cinemas.
No, but so right after that amazing Doc Ock scene, and I think we're all in agreement there. And just again, Alfred Molina, when he's on screen, man, he commands that.
Chef's kiss.
He's just so good, right?
It's
so
perfect.
we go back to
a blast.
We go back to Doctor Strange's basement, right? Which is somehow a combination of a real basement and also just stone like prison cells, but whatever.
Hey man, he just likes to have a good time. Okay, don't take shade.
His Wong's house is crazy. So, so right, this is where we find out what's actually going on. We see that the lizard is already there, already transformed. So he's more. We don't see him. I don't know how to actually say his name. Rhys Ifans. Yeah, we don't actually see him in his human form, but he is returning to voice the character. And Strange has already captured him. This is where we find out basically, hey, we got other villains coming in from other universes. You got to go get them and bring them back here so that we can send them all back to their respective universes, right? And so
I guess that brings me to a gripe that I like one nitpick I have in this movie.
Yeah.
I felt like
the same one I'm thinking of.
What?
You're saying I feel like this might be the same gripe I have, but continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like they blew their budget on like 4 characters, and they're like, oh shit, like we ran out of money. Like, what do we do? Because I feel like for example, the lizard just kind of shows up and he stays in the truck half the movie. You know, like, and then they just use stock footage of him. You know, like,
right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like
I'm gonna be honest, man.
I'm not complaining or anything because like Lizard I was like never really crazy about the Andrew Garfield Lizard, but it's like
right.
Like what's he's just like a baddie, like he doesn't have the same weight
right.
as the other bad guys, even though the movie says they all do,
right.
So
I'm gonna be real with you, okay? I don't think they blew their budget on the villains, okay, getting them in. I think there could be many other things they blew their budget on. I think what really happened is they said, look, okay, we got to pick some characters from every single Spider-Man universe to bring them in. Okay, we got to bring them in. We got Green Goblin. Mwah. We got Doc Ock. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Okay, we got Sandman. All right, I guess. Okay. Yeah. We got Lizard. Wait a minute. No one fucking cares about Lizard. We got fucking Electro. Turns out though, Jamie Foxx knew what the fuck he was doing this movie. But looking at the last movie, I don't know what they did to my man's hair. Okay, in Amazing Spider-Man, someone fucked his fade up. He ain't looking too hot. But it was I don't know about this one, Chief. Okay, and then they said, all right, fine, we got it. Listen, a lizard, get the fuck out of the way, okay? You just sit there, shut up, and we'll figure you out later. And they never wanted to because he was too ugly to look at. He was such a poorly written character. Okay, Electro, Jamie Foxx came in to play. He said, listen, I'm here this time. I'm going to be me. And they said, yes, please, cash a check. Yes, please. And then they're like, I don't know if it's going to work out. Let's try it. And then his first line is, well, I'm out here butt-ass naked in the middle of the woods. And they said, all right, we're cashing the check for Jamie Foxx. He knows what the fuck he's doing.
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of like the lizard just because they were like, "What's his character?" And it's like he's a scientist who became a lizard. Now he wants to make everybody else a lizard. And it's like, "Yep, that's it." Half of his lines of dialogue are like, I could make you into a lizard too. And they're like, "No, you fucking weirdo."
It definitely leans into just how poorly written he was. Like we've talked about how it's carried over like from previous movies. So they carried over the really great written characters, and they also carried over the poorly written characters, and still left them poorly written. That's the way I interpreted it.
That's the thing that I like about this is because I feel like when you do a movie like this where it's gonna connect to past movies, there's a lot of temptation to get some easy like fanboy cred by being like, wow, that other one that people don't like was bad, right? Like I think Spider-Verse did that where they had a gag about like the evil Peter dance, and they're like, we're not going to talk about that. And it's like it's very easy to make fun of that kind of stuff. I kind of like how this one is like, yeah, no, the Sandman's back. Remember from Spider-Man 3? Like, because they know like someone out there is like, fuck yeah, Spider-Man 3. Electro's back. Remember him? Because someone out there is like, fuck yeah, Electro. They put this little theme in there. Like, it felt like they weren't looking at it like too cynically or too meta to where they kind of crawled up their own ass. It's like, no, we're going to celebrate all this. Yes, even Amazing Spider-Man 2. The closest thing we're going to do to being like, yeah, that sucked, is when Andrew Garfield is like, yeah, I just fought a Russian guy in a rhinoceros machine.
Bro, where was Paul Giamatti? I wanted him in this movie.
They should have brought him in just so we had 6. Just so we had a proper 6.
Yeah.
He should have been the 6.
We technically did, but...
Ass.
You didn't like how much fun he was having on Amazing Spider-Man 2, bro? No,
that's the one... The scene where they're in Doctor Strange's basement.
Yeah.
Introduces one, if I have to do the genius at work, itchy and scratchy, like, boy, I hope someone got fired over that blunder one. There's one thing where he specifies the spell's bringing in everybody who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yes.
Electro doesn't know that.
Yeah, Electro never knew that from his movies.
You could have just said it's bringing in people who have a big connection to Spider-Man. People who care about Spider-Man. I don't care. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing.
This movie wants one thing, and it's fucking disgusting.
You're right, Gabe.
0 out of 10.
You're right, Gabe.
Unwatchable.
Exactly. No, I actually agree with Gabe in that certainly Lizard and Sandman were there was the guys on the A team and there were some people on the Z team. Okay,
they're the fillers.
Yeah, not even the B team; it was the Z team. Okay,
they're the off characters.
Yeah. So it's certainly something to point out, but also like if they wanted to give those characters like an actual like substantial role, like this would have been like 4 hours. Like there's only so much time, and I felt that way. I remember we talked about Endgame once upon a time, and I felt that way too. Where sometimes they just sped through things, and it was like, okay, like I get why you did that. It's because you can only have so much runtime. But I definitely would have loved to see a little bit more, and I'll actually say that about this movie too. This movie left me wanting more. And that's just because of how much I had fun, sort of thing, with it. Like, I would have loved to have seen more, like, Doc Ock being confused and, like, trying to say things or whatever, right? Like, there's just a lot of funny moments there. Even the trio of MJ, Ned, and Peter I wanted more of, right? But I think that's a testament to the movie where it knows when to stop and say, like, hey, you want more? Instead of, like, going too far and overstaying its welcome. Be like, yeah, that was way too much, bro. Like, I didn't really have fun anymore, sort of thing.
I have never cared about Tom Holland and his little buddies as much as I have in this movie. Mm-hmm. I really fucking loved Ned and MJ in this. I think they were great.
Yeah, they're really, really good. I never really bought the relationship buildup between MJ and Peter in this trilogy, honestly. It felt kind of like your classmates, but you barely ever talk to each other. I suppose we were all in high school at one point, and maybe that's just how it happens. But in terms of them actually being in a relationship in this movie, you buy it. I don't buy the buildup, but I actually buy the relationship and how they interact. I'm sure it's probably because they're dating in real life that kind of helps, but it's still really, really good. Like I buy the relationship. You can see how much they care about each other.
They're allegedly dating in real life.
Oh, okay.
Just like
They were feeling it out. They were
Yeah.
feeling out how their chemistry was going to work, but this one I think they nailed it. Because like the thing that I love about the character of Mary Jane from the comics is like they always keep trying to reinvent her now. Where it's like the PS4 game, it's like, oh, now she's Lois Lane, she's a journalist,
right?
And it's like, no, the thing that works about her is she's the one mundane thing in Peter Parker's life. She's boring. That's why she's great for him. It's because he can come home and she's just like, hey, did you fight the Vulture again? Yeah. All right. And he could just have a normal life when he's with her. And I think this movie nailed the spirit of that. I love that she's like his rock in this. And I was by the end of it, I was like, fuck yeah, these two kids are great together.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for them. They're adorable.
Yeah, both Ned and MJ are, right? They're certainly his anchors, and Aunt May too, and we'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But like it's certainly an amazing bond, and and that buildup is so good because of what happens in the ending, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But so we're in the scene, right, and we're transported to Sandman and Electro. And Spider-Man's trying to fight them, and he also has MJ and Ned as backups in his head. I also really love that part too, where MJ like talked back to Strange, where she was like, it'd be really, really good if you just said two nice little words. And I love that this is a testament to how good a Benedict Cumberbatch is as an actor. But Strange was gonna be like, I can't believe you just fucking said that shit. He was so mad, bro. He was so mad. It's like,
I love him in this.
Yeah, he was like, did she really just say that after what is going on in the world? I can't believe it was so good, man. I had a great time.
But it is also his fucking fault completely. He's stupid.
What were you gonna say,
he's a PhD in dumb.
No, I agree. Like I actually like MJ and Ned were always like just okay for me in the previous two, but I really liked their role specifically in this movie. I guess we can talk about that later. Sure. But like I actually really liked how this movie did them, and I really like buy the relationship and like really felt their friendship and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. So we get this scene with Electro and Sandman. I'll be honest, I didn't think this was too great. It was really dark and it was kind of full of CG, but it accomplished what it did, like it was supposed to. Yeah. Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman, his voice or his performance is a lot better in this than I think it was in Spider-Man 3. I don't know if you guys have watched Spider-Man 3 recently, but like his delivery in that was just like, Sam, I don't know what you were doing, man. Like, were you sleepwalking through this directing? Like, I don't know if you were just too tired, but this is some bad delivery. And that's not to say that Thomas Hayden Church is a bad actor. He's a great actor. It's just that in Spider-Man 3, it just wasn't there, sort of thing. But so we're introduced to Electro as well, and I know a lot of people. Donovan kind of alluded to it. Amazing Spider-Man 2, Electro. He a little different.
They fucked my man up in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He did Jamie Foxx dirty.
Jamie, what do you want to do in this one? You guys see Baby Driver? Yeah.
Yeah.
I even like too how they gave him a bit more of a comic accurate costume compared to him just being blue.
Yeah.
I think that was a much better as well.
When he shoots his lightning, his his mask thing shows up. I thought it was a nice little touch.
Yeah, I thought that was a great touch too. Yeah, it was nice without being like super overbearing. But I don't know. Did you guys feel differently about this fight? For me, it was kind of like, okay, this is cool, but like, let's keep going.
We're moving along.
Yeah.
It was just like just the weakness of like Sandman shows up and I'm like, hey, Spider-Man, you're Spider-Man. Let me go help you fight this guy. He's just like he kind of just shows up and just beats Electro. Like that's all kind of did for me.
I kind of appreciated it, to be honest, because it was like all these people that were villains. I mean, most of them were villains, but then you have one of them that like was a villain that changed, and it's
Yeah.
like the first person that Peter sees, and he's like, "Oh no, this guy's gonna fucking kick my ass too now. Now I gotta fight two of them." And it turns out like he's like, "No, like we're allies now." And I
Mm,
thought that was kind of nice. I appreciated that,
I
even
agree.
though like it turns out he didn't realize it was the Peter Parker he was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of appreciated that moment, and I thought that that was not the best fight by far because, like you said, Adam, it was very dark. There's a lot of CG,
Right.
but um, I still enjoyed it, and I still think Jamie Foxx's line, "Why am I butt ass naked in the middle of the woods?" That shit was hilarious. I couldn't believe it. That was the
Jamie
funniest shit I
Foxx
ever heard.
is funny as shit in this movie. I honestly
King.
like the character interactions more than I liked the action in that scene.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was so good.
I'm kind of the reason you're here in the universe or here in the woods. I hate the woods. I was talking about the
So
universe.
and that's something I love about this movie too. Some of the writing for the dialogue, especially, they really nailed it. Like in past Spider-Man movies have
It's
been like,
fucking funny.
yeah, like it's a genuinely funny movie despite
really
the
funny.
crazy stakes, for real. So
Peter, could you ask him if this is like a tree scientist that turned himself into a tree? Just a tree man.
Yeah.
All the jokes about how many Spider-Man villains are he was a brilliant scientist until
right.
Mhm.
or he fell into a vat of a thing.
And they make fun of that. They're like, "Oh, what happened
It's
to you?"
great.
I fell into a vat of sand. It's like, "Oh, I fell into a vat of eels." It's like, "Oh,
Damn, gotta
Yeah.
be careful when you fall.
Yeah.
And it's like just lovingly tweaking the nose of it. It's having a lot of fun with the premise.
For sure, for sure. Now, Mark, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one because I
Okay.
know how much you love Willem Dafoe, bro.
Oh,
So
yes.
Willem Dafoe, we see Green Goblin come in. He's in the alley. He has the mask is on the dumpster, right? And
every time.
and just like we see in the Raimi films, right? He's talking to himself. He's got that dual ego sort of thing. And he decides to smash the mask, and that's when he goes to the homeless shelter, right? Is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, the feast shelter.
Yes. But anyway, Mark, like, you tell me, man, what was going through your mind? Because I know how much you love Willem Dafoe, the wheelhouse, all that other stuff.
I love this man so much. And fucking like everybody's probably heard this by now, but his condition for coming back was that they let him do all of his own stunts.
What?
Yeah.
I did not
He's like
know
an-
that.
What?
Really?
No, man.
That was the whole thing. They approached him, and in his own words, he was like, "Yeah, I was like, that sounds cool, but I don't want to be like CGI'd onto somebody, and I don't want to be just like a floating head on a green screen. I want to be there and do that because it's fun."
Is that why they
And
got
they
rid
were
of his
like, "All right, man." So, like, they obviously had stunt doubles for some of the more intense stuff, but for
Yeah.
the most part, like, that was Willem Dafoe running around doing that shit.
Bro, this man is insane.
Spine bustering Tom Holland through an apartment building.
Is that why they
But,
got rid of his like Power Rangers mask so he could like emote more, or is that just like
Yes.
hmm
Which I have a certain fondness for the Raimi Goblin
It's campy,
now.
yeah.
Like in hindsight, it's not a great design. I really like the colors on it
Right.
because there's some shots in that first Spider-Man movie where it's got like this iridescent quality where there are purple highlights
Mhm.
in certain lighting, and it looks really really awesome. But I understand why they smashed the mask. I love that scene in the alleyway.
hmm
The second it cut and the fucking mask is propped up on a thing, I got excited. I was like, "Oh, here we go. He's doing the thing.
Right.
They're letting him do the thing. It's going to be great." And then I mean the new costume is great, and just like I was concerned because I was like I didn't want this movie to just be, you know, look, it's this character and it's
Yeah.
going to fall flat, but
Mhm.
they did an amazing job of giving us these OG villains and saying like, no, they're not just here to go, oh, ooga booga, remember me. It's they're gonna play out differently in this different setting. And this Green Goblin, yeah, he's Toby's Green Goblin, but now he is Tom Holland's Green Goblin too. And it's I fucking love Norman Osborn. I love the Green Goblin. I love how his whole thing is he just wants to fuck with Spider-Man. He just doesn't like that kid. And if you like Green Goblin, you get what you want, and then some in this movie.
Oh.
He's fucking phenomenal.
Oh,
in this.
Willem Dafoe came to play, bro. He came and he owned it.
He's so good.
He's amazing.
He's
That
like the
whole-
best
the
villain
whole-
in like two universes, in
Yeah.
two separate series, you know?
Yeah.
The whole scene in like there's so many scenes in this where I could point at it and be like, oh, this is like my favorite scene. The whole thing of him versus Tom Holland in the apartment building.
Oh,
That might be one of my favorites, just because.
That's
So good.
we'll
that's-
get there. We'll
uh,
get there.
yeah.
So good, but
We'll
we'll
get
get
there.
there.
Fucking
Yeah.
going there.
Oh, well, we're going. It's not, we're on our way. I could see it down the road. But no. So one thing I did want to touch on here, though, before just to move things along, I love the scene in the homeless shelter, the feast shelter, specifically because it ties into one of the biggest themes of this movie. Right. This is when so Peter goes there because I'm assuming his aunt called him or something. But basically, he finds out like, oh, I found someone, blah blah. You should go check it out.
Yeah.
And then Peter's like, yeah, okay, I'll go take him in, and then we can go send him off his way. And then this is where Aunt May is like, no, you can't just like send him away. Like you have to take care of him. You have to like make him better, sort of thing. And that's one of the core themes of this movie. And I suppose of just Spider-Man in general, right? With great power, there must also come great responsibility, sort of thing, right? And Aunt May especially is really pushing on Peter, like, you can't just send these people away to die. Like, you should make them better, rehabilitate them, cure them in certain instances, right? And so that when they do go back, right, they can be a positive impact on society, right? It's a very Spider-Man thing to do, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I kind of hated that, though, to be honest.
Yeah, go ahead, Donovan. How'd you feel?
Go
I
on.
had a lot of problems with that. I thought, very well intentioned, great, sure, like you want to make things better, to help, whatever it is. But like, you don't know these people. Like, you don't know the types of things that they've done. You don't know the types of things that they can do. Like, the way that they can hurt people. Like, and obviously we see later this fucking bit her in the ass really hard.
Right.
But also on top of that, like, think of the amount of, like, Peter's a high school kid. Think of the amount of pressure that her as a mother figure basically is putting on him to basically say, hey, this is your responsibility to fix them. When he didn't bring them in here, he didn't do all this. Doctor Strange's fault. Let him rehabilitate them. He's fucking 17, bro. And you're gonna put all this weight on him to say, hey man, this guy with something wrong in his brain, this guy who's fucking crazy, this guy who just wants to kill everything, you can fix them. Figure it out, idiot. Like, I was just like, what is going? That's kind of fucked up. Like, I felt like that was not okay. That was a little bit rough for me.
To your point, Donovan, I think that strikes to the heart and core of Spider-Man.
Yes.
I think Spider-Man is the character that does and will do the right thing no matter the cost to him.
Right.
And this is why I think it's a great movie, because he has to self-sacrifice. He has to give himself for the right thing, even though it's not the easy thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is the
Yes.
core of Spider-Man. He could have. That's why I really like the box, the whole box thing, because one press of the button could send this all away, But he makes his life harder because he knows it's the right thing to do, and I think
Right.
that's the core of Spider-Man as a character.
And I totally agree with that, and I think that that's like absolutely fair, 100% makes sense. I just felt like, as a mother, like basically a mother to Peter, for her to put that kind of pressure on him to say like, you need to, like, this is your responsibility, that just felt kind of off to me. Like, that felt like that didn't feel okay. But 100%, like, Peter making that decision, like, no, I'm gonna do this, and struggling with that decision throughout the movie to the bitter end was incredibly powerful. But I was just like, man, like, that's kind of fucked up that she put that kind of pressure on him to just be like, you didn't do this, but you should figure it out. And it's like, okay, but he didn't, like, he's just trying his best. Like, he's just vibing out here, but I don't know.
To go off both of your points, that's one of the things that I loved about this movie, is that, like, Green Goblin has a point. When he's lecturing him, he's like, yeah, she tricked you in her holy moral mission. And it's like, yeah, she absolutely did. It is the right thing to do, but she absolutely did, like, guilt you into being in this position that you're in right now, and you're gonna fucking suffer for it. And I love that at that point, then the movie becomes the struggle for Peter to, now that like he's been Spider-Man for a while, and now he has a struggle to, or he has the option to solve this problem with literally the push of a button in the easiest way possible. But if he takes that easy way out, then Aunt May died for nothing.
Mm.
And
go ahead.
No, it's just like it's all his goal. Then at that point, it's like, what are we even doing here? Like Aunt May's fucking dead. Like
right.
what's left to do here?
Mm-hmm.
His goal becomes, I need to prove her right.
Right.
And I think that's what makes this the last act, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think that's what makes this such a strong, like, thematic conclusion.
Yes.
Because the whole MCU Spider-Man, Homecoming, it's like, I want to stay at the dance, but I gotta go fight the Vulture because that's the right thing to do. This sucks. I just want to go to Europe, but I need to pass these glasses on to Mysterio so I could go just enjoy Europe. I want to be a kid. I want to be a kid. And then this is the movie where finally it all catches up to him. He can't have it all. You got to be Spider-Man. You got to grow the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that means giving up everything. And that's the most Spider-Man shit ever. I love the thematic, like, hypothesis this movie has for Peter Parker.
Oh, yeah.
You love to see it.
It's pretty much hitting the nail on the head. The only thing I'll say before we kind of move on is that what Aunt May said is certainly a little naive. Like, it's one thing for Aunt May to be like, hey, like, go cure these people. I don't think she fully fathomed what Peter would have to do to fully cure these people, sort of thing. But certainly it plays into the core of Spider-Man as a character, the idea that you have to make the right choice, and you're also going to live with the consequences of those choices. And like Mark said, it plays a lot into this movie, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But one thing that we have to talk about before we get to the whole apartment scene is this fight between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, okay?
What a great little scene.
This is where the movie really picked up for me, right? Like, first off, when he gets hit, right, and he goes into, like, the astral plane or whatever they called it, right?
The mirror dimension.
Yeah, right. And he's, like, dodging things using a spider sense, and, like, Strange is like, wait, how are you doing that sort of thing? I thought that was pretty cool. But, bro, when they go into the mirror dimension, and we're going all Inception, and the subway trains are going... Bro, like, I was like, okay, I'm in. Wherever we're going, I'm strapped in for the ride. Take me there, John Watts. Kevin Feige, take me away. I'm ready to get strapped into the rocket. Like, let's go, sort of thing. So, like, guys, tell me how you were feeling about this, because to me, this is one of the best scenes, not only of this movie, but I would argue in terms of the MCU, man. It was so visually interesting. It was so clever. We saw some character moments from both Doctor Strange as well as Peter. It was amazing, man. I loved it.
That's the thing. Normally, I'm not huge on, like, the hero and the hero have to fight now, because so often it feels like a Mortal Kombat cutscene where it's like, we disagree, and then somebody throws a punch, and now this is the next 5 minutes.
Right.
But, like, this one, like, it came on really naturally, and, like, aside from being visually interesting, like, it was philosophically interesting, where it's not just like, okay, they're not fighting over just nothing. It's like they both have a point, and you both clearly understand why they have the point that they have. And I like that, it's a Spider-Man movie, so he has to beat Doctor Strange. But I like that in the grand scheme of things, Strange is at least at that point in the film not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that he's like, look, like, whatever happens to these guys is what's supposed to happen. Not to be heartless about it, but we're talking about the multiverse. There's literally infinites of these guys. That means there's infinite ones where they die. It sucks, kid, but people die. And it's Spider-Man is a very good character to be the voice of reason and the voice of empathy in that kind of debate.
Absolutely. Gabe, is this where the movie really, really picked up for you? Because I know you said first act was a little rough. Is this where you were like,
no,
okay,
I think, yeah,
just like me?
So one little nitpick I had was, I want to ask this question. When he gets like spirit attacked and his spirit comes out of his body, and he's thought, how does that happen? I didn't
Spider sense.
But like the Spider Sense is able to like have him dodge in the astral plane. That's a thing.
That's
It's like a
implied.
reflex.
That's what's implied. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think his body. I think that was his physical body dodging.
Yeah.
Oh, so there wasn't. Okay, never mind or whatever. But yeah, I really like Strange and like I like pragmatic asshole Strange in this.
Right.
Like, the
Yes.
direction they're taking him. They're like, yeah, like just they're just kill him. It's better for the best. Like I kind of like that direction because like you were saying, Mark, like it clashes with the empathy of
The philosophy.
the philosophy, of Spider-Man of Peter Parker. But like
Doctor Strange has a good niche in the
Yeah,
MCU now.
I
There's
agree.
a lot of lighthearted quipsters. Doctor Strange is just a tired asshole.
yeah. But
He's
what you
above
were
it
saying,
all.
Adam, like this scene, like gorgeous. Like when
Yes.
I remember seeing this in the trailer, and this was the part where I was like, I need to stop watching trailers. I need to see this when it comes out because the more I see of it, the less I'll be surprised. And I'm so happy
Right.
I did that. But I remember seeing this in the trailer, and I was like, wow, like being like this could be either be like a really weird CGI fest that doesn't turn out very well, or this could be amazing. And it turned out amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it calls back to the train in Spider-Man 2. I mean, same thing.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, movies of all time.
Oh God,
Like,
what a scene!
it's like that whole train was the reason that scene was made, and I'm all for it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, I'm all for it. Like, done, sold. You got me. So I loved it. It was great. I mean, at this point, I was already like buckled into the ride. I was like, yes, more. I will consume whatever you put in front of me right now.
Oh yeah, we're strapped in. Kevin Feige, light the rocket.
Like, do with me what you will, dude. Like, you got me. You got me.
Hell yeah, Donovan. I know you're not a big fan of Strange, so I'm sure you enjoyed seeing what Tom Holland did to him in here. How'd you feel?
Okay, this was a part of the movie where I had to. I made a conscious decision to turn my brain off because I feel like it was a lot of visual spectacle, very cool. We're in the
Right.
fucking Rocky Mountains, wherever we are. I don't know. We're in Texas. I don't know where he took us with those fucking trains, okay? Took us somewhere mountain range. Very cool visual effects. I thought all that was really cool. But candidly,
Donovan, you can keep it real with us. It's okay.
bro, Doctor Strange should have won that fight easy, okay? Fucking Tom Holland, Spider-Man, you don't know what the fuck he's doing. How did he lose that fight, bro? You should have beat his ass. Just use use a simple spell. Use a fucking abracadabra and make him like poop his pants or something. Like you could have won that fight so easily. Like it makes no sense. Doctor Strange fucking sucks, bro. This guy has no concept of anything. He can't do anything right in this movie. He literally did nothing right. This whole movie sucks. Okay, I'm done with him. Okay, I'm done. I want Wanda. I want I don't care who else, okay? I don't want Doctor Strange though. I want nothing to do with him. Okay? So I turned my brain off and I said, listen, Doctor Strange should have won this fight easy, but let's have some fun. And the choreography with the cinematography, the shots with the special effects, beautiful. He fucking does the Fusro, the 5-finger fucking death punch. Boom! Punches him so hard he fucking flies out of his body. It's like, oh shit! He's going. He's out of here. He's gone. Fucking swims his way back into his body. He starts swinging around through the fucking portals. Very cool action sequence. I loved all about it. Doctor Strange fucking sucks though. My guy, you need to fucking get a clue. Learn something from your fucking spell book, please, bro. Because whatever you got cooking ain't working. It fucking sucks.
That's one of those fan servicey things that I love seeing whenever Spider-Man crosses over with another character, where they'll like underestimate him. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, Spider-Man, that guy in the onesie is like always cracking bad jokes." Like, yeah, what the fuck? And then it's like, no, he could like bench press a subway car, and like Spider Sense is the most broken shit ever. He's gonna completely rock your shit if he wants to. Like,
What is Doctor Strange, bro? Just abracadabra. You could spider sense. You could spider sense is gonna happen. You can't stop him from making you weigh 1,000,000 pounds with gravity. Like, you can't spider sense your way out of him making you shit yourself mid-fight. Like, what are you gonna do? You're done. You lost. Why didn't he just like spider? Why didn't he take away his powers? Why didn't he use a magic spell to say sorry, go to sleep, good night, and Spider-Man takes a nap? Like, there's so many things he could have done. He could have magicked himself and made himself look like MJ and be like, "You gonna fight me? You gonna hit a woman?" Cancel his ass on Twitter, okay? Like, he could have done so many different things, and he chose none of the right options, bro.
It's too late, Spider-Man. I've already canceled you on Twitter. Now give me the box.
What's he gonna do? First Mysterio, now Doctor Strange. They're coming at him from every social media platform, from every angle. He can't do anything. Doctor Strange sucks. But I turned my brain off. Great fight. Had a lot of fun with it.
J. Jonah Jameson would have never let him live it down. So we'll get back to Doctor Strange later because he'll appear a little bit later. But now we get to the whole apartment scene, okay? And this is actually the part where the movie kind of calms down, right? And we get to see a bit more of those interactions that we're talking about. Some really genuinely funny bits. I don't know how I feel about this whole like fucking miracle machine that can just make literally whatever. Oh yeah, I have it in the back, by the way. Whatever. It's just like, okay,
just
whatever.
3D prints Doc Ock a new brain.
Just 3D prints whatever you want. It's like, okay, it's fine. It's because comics sort of thing. Like,
should have fucking 3D printed a better Doctor Strange. Jesus Christ.
But there's two things I want to touch on here. First off, that curing Dr. Octopus scene that Mark had alluded to before, beautiful, breathtaking, so good,
really good. Scene.
It's really nice. It's just nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
It's like
and I was
a good kid.
Yeah, and I was so worried too that what Electro's power is gonna like shock the chip and be back to square one, like what happened in the Spider-Man 2. Thank God that didn't happen. I was very worried about that. I was like, damn, it's
sucked.
But this is where we have to talk about this, boys. Like, the tension when Spider-Man is like, yo, I'm sensing something, like something's up sort of thing, right?
I love the Spider Sense. I love it.
Spider Sense was so good. And
it's such a good device.
So good. And then he's like, May, you need to go. And leave right away. And then, of course, the camera pans over to Willem Dafoe, and Marky's got that smirk on his face.
He's got that fucking grin, that shittying smile.
Oh, it's so good, right?
That's a neat trick. Oh, he's back. Ladies and gentlemen, our boy is in the building.
Right. So I love the final like ending fight scene with all three Spider-Man, but I'll be honest, this is one of the greatest action scenes in any superhero movie I've ever seen in my life. I'm just putting it out there. Like, the brutality, Willem Dafoe, Tom Holland's brutality, the ending with what happened to Aunt May, Happy when he was just like, yo, save yourself. Except for the part where the lizard's just stuck in the truck. That's kind of whatever. But everything else...
We got a scene for this movie. Here's the concept. Willem Dafoe beats the fuck out of somebody. It's going to be a great scene.
It was amazing, man. It was amazing.
When he just, it might be my favorite little moment. But just the whole thing where he's beating the fuck out of him in that hallway.
Yeah.
And he's just lecturing him the whole time. Strong enough to have it all, too weak to take it. And then he just throws him into the ceiling, catches him, and spine-busters him through like 13 stories.
So good!
By God, that man has a family. He's broken in half. Just turns into WrestleMania shit.
Broke his back.
Yeah.
That shit was so good. Oh my God, bro.
God, how was the referee letting this happen?
What are you saying, Gabe? Go ahead.
He just power slams them through the like concrete and steel, I guess they never really seen how strong these guys are.
Yeah.
But like this, I was like, holy shit, these guys are actually like, he's like Bautista bombing him through like 4 floors, I'm like, gee.
Yo, bro,
Willem Dafoe can fucking body slam me like that. That shit was lit.
bro.
If it just becomes a power level thing, like, oh yeah, Green Goblin could probably beat the fuck out of Captain America without breaking a sweat. Like, this dude is strong.
No, that was the thing I noticed too. Was just like Tom is pretty angry at this point.
This dude's scary.
Right. Like our MCU Spider-Man is pissed, and he. I'm just saying, like when he was throwing those haymakers, my boy does not look like he's throwing back at all. Okay, and Willem Dafoe, he eats it and then he grins back.
He's laughing.
That honestly, when
See
he's
him
like,
laughing?
he's like slamming him in the face, and he just looks up and smiles in his like
Oh.
cheeky damn grim. I was like, holy fuck! That
That's
was
what I'm talking about with like just big stupid smile on my face. Like, this is fucking great.
That was
He does the PS4 move where he like kicks him into the ground and then web shoots him like into a drop kick.
Right. It was so
It's
good.
great.
Man.
so
It's
good.
great.
Willem
Did you
Dafoe's
notice
fucking
when he tells Aunt May to run and she runs into the stairwell, the camera pans up and there's a green exit sign?
I did not notice that.
Whoa.
John Watts is a visual poet.
Interesting.
Okay.
Why are most exit signs green though?
No.
Yeah.
But like the exit sign at the theater that someone walked out of was also green. You think the goblin killed him? Left the theater, got his
Hear
fucking
the
ass
floor.
beat. Boom! How dare you?
So I know we've been all freaking out, but anything else, Gabe or Donovan, that you want to say about this phenomenal, incredible scene?
I think I want to backpedal a little bit
Go
to the
ahead.
whole villains
Yeah.
scene because it really like helped characterize them too.
Mhm.
I guess like I think this was the scene where Otto was cured.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was nice to see
Beautiful.
that, you know, like
Mhm.
just like him Alfred Molina being all angry and villainous, and then suddenly like the fog is lifted, you know,
Yeah.
and that's not something I
Yeah.
realized like, oh yeah, like he actually was a good guy before all of this, you know,
Mhm.
and it shows like how smart he was. Peter Parker is, you know, like being able
Yeah.
to do that. Another thing that stuck out to me real fast before we keep going was, like I said, just like, oh, I fell into a vat of eels, or I fell into, you know, just like those interactions
Yes.
where like
Yeah.
two, you know,
Saltwater or freshwater?
like two big
What?
actors are just like freaking Jamie Foxx is kind of like a side character in this. Like Jamie Foxx, like Django
Right.
and you know, like
Yeah.
it's huge. I really like. I liked how, you know, there was a little like a slowing of the action there, just a little breathing, like helps
Yes.
us realize like, oh yeah, like this is a really good movie. You know, even like just the whole help me like absorb the whole spectacle of it.
Yeah.
All, if that makes sense. You know,
For sure. Donovan, anything else you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I would say, and this is just going back to like the Willem Dafoe stuff, I feel like at this point in the movie, I realized, like from the moment we saw his character to this point where he like shows his true colors,
Yeah.
like, you know, one of the things that I realized was like if you rewatch the movie, like you actually it's hard to tell and understand who's actually in control of Norman.
Yeah.
Like in the very beginning when he breaks the thing, and like probably when he gets to Aunt May and he's just talking, probably doesn't really know.
Right.
And it might be like regular old Norman, just like scared, afraid, blah blah blah. But like there's so many points after that whenever you see him and it's like, is this Norman?
Yes.
Or is this the goblin
Mm-hmm.
playing
great.
everyone like a fucking fiddle? And
Right.
that was really, really cool to see.
Yeah.
Just like he just kept us on our toes, and it was just like always so eerie, like I don't know what's gonna happen. And then when it all came to a head, like wow, man, what a phenomenal scene and sequence of events from the beauty that we talked about of, you know, them actually curing Doc Ock and seeing how that turned and all of that process, to the slow change
Mhm.
of Electro, just like nah, I want this power for myself.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be a fucking loser again. I know what they did to me in Amazing Spider-Man. Like, I'm not trying to go back to that.
Right.
Who could blame him? To just the Goblin just playing everyone like a fiddle, to the
Yes.
eventual, crazy scene that we're about to get to, which
Yeah.
is Aunt May's death.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing Tom Holland Spider-Man
Yeah.
so utterly and hopelessly
Crushed.
broken
Yes.
from
Yeah.
what just happened, like that for me, like I was actually crying when that happened. I remember
Yeah.
sitting next to Dan, and he
Yeah.
was just like, he just kind of looked at me, and I think he wanted to crack a joke, but he could
Right.
tell I was actually like tearing up, and he's
Yeah.
like, this isn't the time for this.
Right.
And I was just like, I need to let this moment happen. It was, man, that was really hard.
Yeah. What I'll say here is, before I let Mark and Gabe talk, the only thing I want to say here, it is a testament to Willem Dafoe's ability as an actor. He's a phenomenal actor. He puts in a great performance, but at the same time too, him as well as the other actors, they kind of everyone kind of elevates to the occasion, right? Tom Holland, he's
Yeah.
holding his own right there with Willem Dafoe, right? And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that Tom Holland's the greatest actor I've ever seen or whatever, but he's certainly been in Oscar caliber movies, and he knows how to emote. And I think, especially what he brought out in this scene, like, big shout outs to John Watts and Tom Holland for bringing that performance out, right? Marissa Tomei, I've never really thought of her as like some super great actress or anything like that. And that's with Peace and Love. I mean that with Peace and Love. I mean like Oscar worthy or something like that. But she also brought it, and she's really, really amazing. I wasn't expecting this to happen. I don't know about all you guys. I was all like, where are they going with this? And then she died. I was like, bruh, are you serious? Sort of thing.
I actually got spoiled to this.
Oh,
The
really?
day of the movie.
Was it Fortnite guy?
No, it wasn't the fucking Fortnite guy. If it was the Fortnite guy, I would have went over to row 7 and fucking kicked him. I would have put my foot so far up his ass, he would have got a nosebleed, okay? He'd have been shitting out my chew for a week and a half. No, it was a random YouTube recommended video
Right.
that just said, I don't know why YouTube sent this to me. Susan Wojcicki, fuck you for doing this to me. You've hurt me for the last time. It just says Aunt May death scene, No Way Home, and it's the thumbnail for dying. I was like, who let them upload this, bro? Who did this? I
It's
was
brutal.
so upset. But
It's brutal out there.
it still hit so hard for me. I wish I could have experienced, as someone who loves video games and pieces of content that make you just feel something.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, it's one of my biggest regrets. I wish I could have seen that for the first time without knowing that was
I'm
going to
sorry,
happen.
man.
But it still hit me so hard. Sheesh.
Yeah, that's why I had to see it like when it first came
Susan
out.
did me dirty.
Yeah.
Because I knew like any spoiler would just like ruin it. But like, yeah, like I think there was like a few fake outs, right? If I'm not mistaken, like, so let's do a play by. So if I'm trying to remember this correctly, she gets downstairs. He throws like a pipe bomb or something. Or is that later?
No,
He hits her with the glider.
He
and
hits
then
her
he
with the
throws a
glider,
bomb
yeah.
at her.
And then she like gets up and thinks that everything's okay, and then he like leaves a bomb. And then like so it's like two fake out deaths essentially, and then you think like, okay, like, because I didn't think they would kill her, honestly.
I didn't think that's either. I was like, they don't have the balls, bro. And
they did it. They actually went and did it. The crazy people. And when she said, "With the great power comes great responsibility" line,
it hits
I was
hard.
like, oh shit!
That's when it hits.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit! It was really funny because I was in, like I said, full of other kids, like small kids, and they were like crying. Kids were crying.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, like, oof, I'm about to cry.
I've seen a couple like toddlers getting escorted out by their parents when that scene comes up, and it's like, no, stick with it for 5 minutes. You're gonna have a blast in just a couple minutes.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, definitely, like, surprised me. And as someone who's like, you kind of like expect what to like come in, what to expect coming in, right? But like this, I didn't expect at all, and that was like, hats off to you guys,
Yeah, they really nailed it, man. They really did. Mark, I again, you've been super critical of certain things, right? When it comes to MCU Spider-Man, but you've also been highly praising Willem Dafoe and this whole entire sequence. For you, was this something that you were expecting? Did it hit as hard? How'd it go?
Well, I mean, it's a great sequence just because it's it just starts it off with the Doc Ock scene, which is just this nice, like, heartwarming little bit of optimism, and it's like,
Yes.
if we're going with the roller coaster analogy, like, we've reached the top of the hill, now it's time to go down, and just you get the fight, which is incredibly just. There's that great tense scene, and then the fight has a lot of energy. It's really
Right.
fun and entertaining. Like, even Lizard gets a little bit of play.
Right.
Because he has a good line that I only really noticed on a rewatch, where he's like, Peter's telling them all this plan to rehabilitate them, and he's just like, listen, take it from me, when you try and change people for the better, there's always consequences. Which is a great line to give the Lizard. And then when everything goes to shit, he just pops in for a second and, like, sucker punches him. He's like, told you, bitch, and throws him back to Willem Dafoe before running off. But
Right.
you get this very entertaining scene, and then finally, they reach the lobby, and you just full disclosure, right? I was perusing leaks for years before this came out.
Okay.
I couldn't help myself. This is one of those ones where I was like, and Infinity War Endgame, I avoided everything. This one, it's like new leaks coming out. It's like, dish, let's take a look.
Sure.
And, you filter through a lot of fake stuff, but then the one thing, which, like, slight side tangent, that somebody at Disney, at Marvel, that they're on 4chan, that they're on Reddit, that they are seeing what is being leaked.
Right.
How's about you cut your trailers so that it doesn't confirm any of the leaks? Because the thing that sealed the deal was when they put out that trailer that had the Statue of Liberty with the Captain America shield. Because that was the one detail where people were like, all right, what are the odds that somebody would have guessed that this is a plot point? I guess this one turned out to be true. And it didn't have all the specific details, but, it had Andrew, it had Toby, it had Aunt May dying, it had Green Goblin, it had all the stuff. It had Eddie in the post-credits scene.
Right.
And so it's like, I saw it coming, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know the finer details. I didn't know how it was going to go down. I didn't know how they were going to play it. And, like, I've never really cared too much about Tom Holland Spider-Man. I liked him before this. I was like, yeah, he's doing a good job. I would not have expected myself to get emotional watching MCU Aunt May eat it, but the way they played it, it's a really fucking good death scene. And the great power line. I feel like everybody was assuming, like, Toby was going to get that or something.
Yeah.
But really, like, it's smart move. Give it to Aunt May,
Right.
and she sells it great. It's like the same way that I look back on, like, the first Sam Raimi movie and that whole origin sequence where Uncle Ben dies and he goes to get the carjacker, where it's like, ooh, you get those superhero chills. I feel like that's going to be this for this generation. It's a really, really good Spider-Man scene, and it's just like the line drop too, I think, was like the whole sequence. The second that she got hit by the glider, like, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. No one was making any noise.
Right.
And then when they're talking, and they sucker punch you with great power, and that's when you hear the intake of air from everybody.
Right.
And I love those little moments. But yeah, no, it's a great scene.
Yeah, I also want to add, loved how Happy was there too, and Happy's already mostly invested in Aunt May as well. We'd seen that kind of breakup and how broken up he was about it. And so it was cool to see him realize what was going on, but also still do the right thing and let Tom Holland kind of get away.
What a chocolate and peanut butter kind of thing, putting Jon Favreau and Tom Holland together.
Right.
It's like, apparently the original plan was they were going to kill off Happy in Iron Man 3, and Jon Favreau was personally like, no, I'm having fun. Can we not do this? Could he just get hurt really badly? And they were like, fine, fuck it, I guess. And, like, that was when Spider-Man wasn't even a twinkle in their eye.
Right.
That was when Andrew Garfield was still
Spider-Man.
the guy. And it's like, how fortuitous that played out, because I love those guys' dynamic together. They have great little chemistry.
Oh, they definitely do, and that's certainly something that they play on, I think, really well, not only in this movie, but also in the trilogy. So one thing I want to say before we get to the scene, and y'all know what I mean by the scene, for for those of you who have seen this movie or who have not seen this movie, whatever, I just want to say, like, if you ever spoil this movie for someone, shame on you. Like, I remember when we watched this movie and they actually had that in the beginning before the movie started.
Yeah.
Hey, don't spoil it. Like, this is a movie you cannot spoil. Like, if there was any movie, don't be that person, please. Don't be what's her name was to Donovan. Okay, don't be that. Don't
God
be
damn
it.
it, Susan.
Yeah.
Don't be Susan. With peace and love to Susan.
Well, peace and love to Susan. Peace and love to Susan. YouTube, please don't come for our ass. We're
Yeah.
uploading the podcast to YouTube. Don't get us. It was
Yeah.
just a prank. Okay, it was just a prank.
We're just
Fix
having
that
a PSA.
algorithm now.
Yeah, we're just having a PSA about spoilers. Anyway, all right, let's
You know what? Actually, there's one more thing before we get to the scene.
go ahead.
Because I always forget about this. And it's this little moment that's sandwiched between probably the two biggest moments of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it gets overlooked. But there's a part where after he runs off, it's Tom Holland just chilling in the rain, watching a big Blade Runner TV of J. Jonah Jameson.
Right.
And I love the speech that they give Jameson
Mm-hmm.
in that. Just because I feel like, again, we're talking about the theme. I love the themes in this movie.
Yes. Yes.
And you have... Just prior, you just had Norman build up the like antithesis to the Spider-Man philosophy, gods don't have to choose, we take, like, which is a great fucking line, and it's a great philosophy to put Peter up against. And then you have the Jameson aspect where it's not angry Jameson, it's not funny Jameson, it's just fucking like sad, disappointed Jameson, and just being like, yeah, somebody's dead, look at all this destruction. Everything Spider-Man touches turns to shit. How is he going to deal with this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as if our boy couldn't be beaten any lower, we're gonna punch him down even further, make him feel even worse about himself, and that's what's gonna motivate him eventually to do better. It's a great use of all these Spider-Man elements.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right. Let's talk about the scene, boys.
The scene.
So I was at this point in the movie. I don't know how y'all are feeling, but I was definitely okay. Like, so when are they gonna come in? Is this where we go? Right. And so we see Ted and not Ted, Ned and MJ. I was about to call it. Wasn't even gonna call her MJ. I was gonna say TJ for some reason. Ned and MJ, right, are basically, they don't know where Peter is, and they're trying to find Peter. And we also find out that Ned apparently knows how to use Doctor Strange's what they call it, the sling ring, which is like, again, whatever.
No, dude, that just proves Doctor Strange ain't shit. Okay,
there you have
Anyone can do it. Ned can do it. We can do it. You viewers at home, you can do it too. Okay, just fucking find Strange. He's out on 106 in Park Ave. Okay, go beat his ass up. Spider-Man beat his ass. You can beat his ass too. Okay, go do some magic. Okay, we Hogwarts in this bitch.
We Hogwarts.
That's it for my PSA.
So and he basically opens a portal, and this is where we see Andrew Garfield. I remember when I was watching the scene, bro, and like it was him coming through the portal. I was like, I think Mark, you might have heard it. I was like, no, fuck you. I was like, fuck you.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I was like, fuck you. No, you didn't. You didn't do this right now. And then it's, bro, like, oh, I couldn't eat.
That's why when I was buying my tickets, I was like, all right, which seat was Adam in? I remember Infinity War. This is gonna play out.
It was.
I want to be in the splash zone.
Oh my god, bro! It was something to behold, and Gabe would understand too, bro. That some of that Filipino humor that was in there.
Oh my god. Okay, a little aside. So she was speaking Tagalog, and they did not, if I remember correctly, did not use subtitles. But everything that the grandma was saying was like legitimately like Filipino. I was like, oh shit! That was actually a part. I was like, I was the sole person clapping in that movie. No, it's true. I was like, holy shit, I'm speaking Filipino. Like, it was just nice seeing that representation.
Yes.
You know, like, there's not a lot of Filipino characters in general, but like, she was legitimately like, they like called her Lola, which is like what we call grandma. Like, you know, I don't know. It was very legit, and I was like, oh, like this. It really spoke to me. I was like, holy shit, like this is awesome. Like. It brought it up a tier for me, just seeing that representation.
Oh, I'm the same way, and also Gabe, I'm sure you could agree too, bro. She acted like a Lola, bro. She didn't care what was going on. She was like, "Could you get that?" It was like,
Yeah. It's like, oh, just be quiet. I'm going to sleep. And they're like, all right, bye, Lola.
that's totally a thing to do. 100%. But one thing I want to say too, again, like it was such a great scene to see Andrew and then subsequently Toby come in later. But even the character dialogue between Andrew Garfield and all them, when like I'm just like prove that you're a spider or something like that. And it's like, really, you really want me to do this right now?
That's like my favorite exchange in the whole movie. All right, so like number one in this movie is Willem Dafoe. Number two is Andrew Garfield. He was so fucking good in this.
He was
I
amazing.
loved him in this. He was great. The fucking thing with the bread, all of his little facial tics and everything. I love it. The blunt way he just like pops up on the ceiling.
Yeah. Like watching him in this movie made me feel like it wasn't him that was a bad Spider-Man in Amazing Spider-Man 2. It was bad directing.
The movie sucked around him.
Yeah.
He was always like pretty good.
Yeah.
Here he's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's so
he got
good.
to shine. And
and-
boy did he shine.
This felt like a backdoor pilot for like a Sony verse where it's like, all right, Andrew Garfield's going to be the one that meets Tom Hardy. And it's like, you know what? I'm on board. Do it. Great.
Yeah.
I want more of this Spider-Man. He's awesome.
And this is just like what Gabe said. Andrew finally got his redemption because we all
give our boy a fair chance.
We all know Sony did this boy dirty, okay, in those first two movies, okay, but he was always one of the best parts about those movies, and it was so good to see him finally shine. Also, this was something that he had always talked about too, because when Avengers came out, like it was him and Hugh Jackman who I think was just like, look, guys, I wish I could be in those movies with them. It's something that I really, really want to do, but it's not in my control. And what a beautiful thing that he can finally fulfill that dream, man. It was so beautiful to see. But Gabe, I know you had mentioned it before, so what was going through your mind at this point?
So I was like fangirling when Andrew first came in, but like what I was saying earlier, like I think this is a redemption for his character, you know, for Andrew, like on like in the movies as well as in the meta level, because everyone was saying before, you know, like his movies weren't the warmest reception, you know, but like I think after this, like everyone is really on board with him as Spider-Man. Like I was never people are talking about like a Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 3 now, which I was never considered, but like I would watch it, you know, if they were went out, you know, after that performance. And I think it shows like I think for me personally, Andrew Garfield was the best actor of the three.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. You know, so that's what I have to say. Like, it was definitely like a redemption, and I am so about that. Like, you know, so
his whole energy. I love that he's like the bum Spider-Man. His whole energy is that one gif of Andrew Garfield like taking a picture with somebody and like cheering over the dollar bill. he's just like old and busted and poor, and he doesn't have a girlfriend. And he's just so deep down in the shit, and everybody's got something up on him, and that makes him really easy to root for. I loved him. He had so many great moments.
It was great, man. And again, Andrew, I'm just happy for him. I know how he's spoken at length at how much it hurt him, like basically what happened with Amazing Spider-Man 2, and how he had to bounce back as an actor, and that's why he did so many like Oscar stuff like Silence and whatnot. So it's just really good to see him be able to come back to the role, and I'm sure it meant a lot to him on a personal level, like Gabe was saying. But next, it's not just Andrew, boys. We got Toby coming in. So how'd y'all feel about the Toby reveal?
This one was interesting.
Yeah.
Tell
us your thoughts.
Like, Andrew's reveal is like, I think it was a smart choice having him be first.
Yes.
Because if you had Toby come out first, it's like, all right, well, and also Andrew's here. And the way they did the Andrew reveal, like I think each time that I saw it, there was somebody either like clapping or cheering. Like even the third time that I saw it, where there were only maybe like 20, 30 people in the entire theater. Like the framing, the energy he has when he pulls that fucking mask off, and it's just him up there. It's like, I love it. That's so good. And the Toby one is good in a different way, just because it's like now you get the dramatic build-up. There's like a pull-in on Zendaya's face looking at the portal, and he just kind of walks in there, because it's like this is the Spider-Man who needs no introduction. I almost wish they went for something a little bit bigger with him. I like it. I wish we could have gotten those like Danny Elfman bongos coming in, you know. Like if instead of whatever they used for the score, we get the like like that would have been like we're here, we're losing it. But also it was I liked the fact that it was kind of like awkward and low key was very true to the character.
Yeah.
He comes in and they're like, oh, it's just some guy. And Ned's grandma's hitting on him. And it's like, yeah, that feels like old Tugboat.
Dude, I low key kind of wished that he came in, and I know this would have been very bad. This is an awful pitch. They shouldn't.
You wanted to do the dance, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
I wanted him to just come in and just like fucking walk through the portal, know exactly what's going down. Listen, this is a Spider-Man that's had years and years of experience, okay? He's old. He's a fucking boomer at this point, okay? He's gone through some shit, okay? I wanted him to just fucking walk in, know what was going on, and just fucking, the camera just pans to him, zooms in, and you see him, pizza time, and then it just fucking cuts. Go, move on to the next scene. That's it. Nothing else. No introduction. We just move on. Just pizza time.
I feel like we all. I feel like everybody was speculating, like, "Ooh, you know what they should do? They should do that, like how they're gonna show up."
Yeah.
For me, it was you're gonna have the big climax where Tom Holland's trying to fight all the guys, and he's on his last legs. It's going real poorly. And then the portal opens, and Tobey Maguire swings out and goes, "You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us."
That was so good. We used to be a Spider-Man. Now we are Spider-Men. And everyone in the crowd's just like, what? Fucking Green Goblin's like, you good? Like, what's going on here? Are you stupid?
They're just riding on each other's shoulders like a chicken fight. They're like, now, see and try and tangle with us now, Green Goblin.
No. Oh my god, that would have been so good. They're fucking like, you just see Toby on Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield's like arms are spread out like the fucking glider that Green Goblin rides. Toby's just fucking legs wrapped around his waist and swinging around with them, chasing the goblin all around.
His arms are just windmilling. Now that we've assumed the ultimate form.
Dude, now that would have been a movie. I would have bought fucking every ticket in a movie to see that again. I would have rented out the whole theater just to experience that a second time.
When they make No Way Home 2, we know what we want to see for sure.
Yeah.
Find out Way Back Home. Way Back Home, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
2026.
Gabe, anything else you want to say about this Toby review?
I liked when Toby first walked in. Andrew's and Toby's spider sense went off, and they immediately saw each other as threats.
Yeah.
And they kind of had like a quote unquote fight, and Andrew or like Toby was able to like
quick
win.
draw.
Yeah, like he was able to win because he knew about the spider. He knew about his like web shooter, you know.
Right.
And like he was able to block it, and like Andrew gave him quips. He was like, or props. He's like, oh yeah, like good one, man. You know, I kind of like that exchange.
Yeah, I like and we'll talk about this a little bit later once they actually meet Tom. But I like how Toby is just the older brother who's seen all the shit, and he's like, man, like I'm just here to like get the job done. I got a wife. I gotta go back. This doesn't even faze me anymore. My back hurts. It's whatever. But it's cool to see you guys, sort of thing. He's like
they're like having fun with because like they all realize simultaneously like, oh shit, like I've never met another Spider-Man. It's like, yeah, you guys got a back thing? Ah shit, right, the fucking back thing. What do you guys fought?
Yeah.
They get to bond with people about specifically being Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I'll say this too, like I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see when Andrew, Toby, and Tom actually first meet and they talk about the collective experiences as Spider-Man. I'm sure that was a crazy conversation and super interesting. But
you know that when they're on the Statue of Liberty, they probably just told them like, all right, just you're waiting for the villains to show up. What are you guys shooting the shit about?
Yeah.
You know.
It,
I have to make my webs in a lab, and it's a hassle. It sounds it.
my favorite. We'll get there. I'll mention it later. But anyway, so this is where we get to a really, really key scene, which I love. This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, is where both Spider-Man go to comfort Tom Holland Spider-Man, because obviously he's grieving over Aunt May. And this is where they both talk about their own experiences, right? Where Toby's talking about his Uncle Ben, Andrew's talking about the loss of Gwen, that sort of thing, and what drove them forward. And on a certain level, it feels a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not superficial, like kind of, we already know about it.
Like expository.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think obviously for Tom, he's talking to people who literally know what he's going through, sort of thing, right? And hearing it from them, it's not just the, like, yeah, we've experienced losses. Like, no, these are Spider-Men, right? And the way to talk about just like, you need to keep on going, right, despite what happened, right? It's so core to just what Spider-Man is about. And obviously it's great because it's the first time you see them all interact. But for me, this was probably one of the best scenes of the entire movie because of the gravitas of it all. But how'd y'all feel about it?
So I think I have an interesting take on this.
Yeah, go ahead, Gabe.
So as Adam introduced, I am a doctor, but specifically for kids. So as one of the as a pediatrician, you have to have your favorite conversation about like what's your favorite movie or favorite superhero. I would say about 50% of the time it's Spider-Man. And naturally the conversation goes to the movie, right? I've had this conversation multiple times, and they say a lot of the kids I've been talking to, they remember this scene in particular. And I always thought that was really interesting because like some of these kids were never even, they've never even seen the first two, or they don't even have a concept of, what these two meant, but they were able to understand the gravity and like the emotion coming from that scene, And I always thought that was like really, really, really cool because like people like us, like we're old timers, I guess. We've seen all three, and we understand what it means, what each character is saying. But to people who have only seen one or two, or this is for some kids, Tom Holland is their Spider-Man and the only one they know, and for them to like understand that scene, like process it and like really remember, I think really speaks a lot, to the legacy of Spider-Man, like how important this is and like how good this scene was in general, so there's something really interesting I thought I'd bring up,
No, that is super interesting, and I'm constantly reminded when you say that of how many times we've seen all three of those Spider-Men also do something really, really nice and go to hospitals, right, where kids are probably not on the best side of their health, sort of thing. They dress up in costume and go there. Another thing of with great power comes great responsibility, sort of thing, right? That's the first thing that I thought of when I heard you say that. But it is a really interesting insight, man. I suppose it speaks to the strength of that scene. But Mark or Donovan, what were your thoughts on this scene in particular?
Mark, you go first. I'm fucking dying.
Go ahead, Mark.
You go. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll go.
I'm actually dying.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, give Donovan a second.
You guys can't see, on the podcast, but he's like literally choking.
Yeah.
No, it's I really did enjoy this scene. It's great seeing these three guys together, but like I enjoy that it's a slower scene. It's a quieter little moment. And while I do agree with you, Adam, that it was a little exposition heavy, where this is I think the only moment in the movie like there's exposition for people for the if the kids haven't seen the Raimi movies or the Garfield movies,
right?
There's exposition about Norman Osborn. He was a brilliant scientist, but like at least that they kind of have fun with it. But with this, it's like I don't know. I liked the way that they worded it. I liked Toby's whole thing. Like, yeah, no, I wanted to kill him, and I got what I wanted. It didn't make it feel better. It feels like a really clever use of these Spider-Men to kind of take the elements of Tom Holland's take on the character that were seen as detriments, as weaknesses, where it's like, oh, okay, we haven't seen his origin yet. We don't know even if he has an Uncle Ben. We haven't heard Uncle Ben
Right.
yet. And to turn the absence of those elements into almost a strength for this take on the character, where now we get to see it contrasted directly with Toby, with Andrew. And I love the little moment of I for one, I like how with Andrew they focus more on Gwen than Uncle Ben, just to
Yes.
give him something that's a little bit different,
Right.
but also setting up one of the big moments of this movie. But then I do love the whole, like, that's the little turning point. The turning point is the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility, because
Right.
all three of them have heard it. And I love, like, Tom's reaction when he's like, where have you guys heard that? They go, Uncle Ben said it the night he died. And I'm like, this shit just happens to guys like us, it's but they stand as proof that it can get better and it can get worse, and they have a chance to make sure that it turns out better. And
Right.
it's a feel good scene. Like, I don't know. I think the movie juggles tone very well.
Yes.
With Spider-Man, that's always tricky because he's a very comedic character, but he's also a character with a lot of melodrama, no matter what way you shake it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we had our little up with Doc Ock getting killed, or getting cured.
Getting killed, getting cured.
Getting killed. It was a really good feel-good moment.
Yeah.
And then you get the tense scene, you get the action scene, then you get the emotional low point. Then it dips us out of that with a funny, cool, like, make you smile scene with them, and then it goes back into the drama for a little bit, but it's like a cathartic kind of sad scene. I don't know. I think they just handled those crests and valleys really well, tonally speaking.
For sure. And one thing I'll add before Donovan gives his take now that he's recovered is just that it definitely kind of is an introduction, right, to the sibling dynamic that they all have, right?
Yes.
It very much feels like some older brothers, right, kind of coming in to comfort their younger brothers, clearly going through something and telling them, like, hey, we've also gone through it too, bro. Like, we're here. We need you to, like, we encourage you to move on and to go out there and still fight the good fight despite what happened, which is a lot of what Spider-Man is all about. A lot of really getting to the core of the character. But
it's a movie where they just want to help people. The other
Mhm.
Spider-Mans just want to help Tom, and Tom just wants to help the villains.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I think is so crazy when you say, like, oh yeah, the plan A, like, this was the plan B,
Right.
in case the Sony thing didn't work out. The plan A was going to be just, it's Spider-Man, another one.
Right.
In this movie, Spider-Man fights Kraven.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just going to be the movie. And it's like, that sounds like shit compared to this.
For sure.
This is a movie with so much to say about Spider-Man as a concept and as a character. I really, really admire what they did with it.
For sure.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Donovan.
I feel like their conversations and every way that they interacted with each other, both in this scene and especially scenes later.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of my favorite Tom
layout.
Holland scene in this movie, which is when he's fighting Goblin at the very end.
Yeah.
But just like not only how they were able to communicate verbally with each other, but how they were able to communicate visually to each other
Yes.
through their their gestures towards each other, their facial expressions towards each other. Like, they spoke volumes, and it was incredible. Like,
Mhm.
it's one of my favorite things, and again, like, bringing it back to games, which is like my favorite storytelling medium. Like, my favorite thing with narrative games is, like, don't tell me, show me.
Mhm.
It's so easy to just say something, but it's so much more difficult to show something. And they were able to show so much through really very limited interactions that they had, because
Right.
we're at the back third of the movie now,
Yeah.
really like back quarter. Like we're about to get into the final fight, and then it all wraps up very quickly with a neat little bow, kind of semi neat little bow.
Yeah.
And so that's not a lot of time for them to build a connection with each other
Mhm.
and interact and have it feel semi organic, especially given the circumstances of everything going on. And boy, did they do a really fucking great job. I loved it.
They make the most out of the time they have, man. And
Yeah.
and again, like I definitely had to be like, okay, whatever. Like, there's no way a high school fucking science lab, even at a prep school, would have everything you need to like cure the goblin. But whatever, it's fine. It's a movie. It's fine, sort of thing. But even all those like little scenes with all interacting with each other, I thought was great. Like and when MJ like or it was Ned that was like Peter and Aldrin like yes or something like that. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot of really cool like
They
small
point at
dynamics.
each other.
Yeah,
The thing, they're like the
yeah, the meme.
podcast,
They do
but
the
like
meme.
yeah, the meme where they're all pointing to each other.
Yeah.
They did it.
Yeah, it was really good. There's a lot of little Easter eggs. I love that part where that like it mentioned that Ned like becomes Hobgoblin and goes up to like Tom Holland. And he's like, "Hey, I promise not to become Hobgoblin or something like that, or to become a supervillain."
Did you have a best friend? Yes, I did. He
Yes.
died in my arms right after he tried to kill me.
Yeah,
It was breaking.
yeah. And again, it's like what you said before, Mark. That's winking to the audience, right? Because we know about that, right? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop the movie to do those references, which is part of what makes it so good.
Mm-hmm. So people who just real fast don't know, Ned in the comics actually goes into another villain called the Hobgoblin.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about. But yeah, just so if I can just like jack
Yeah.
this real
No,
fast.
you're good, dude. You're good, man.
Yeah. I really, like I said, like you were saying, I really love, they really make the most out of all their interactions, you know?
Yeah.
And I like how, one thing that really struck out to me was how it kind of gave us Amazing Spider-Man 3, almost, you know? How Garfield said, oh, I went dark, you know, I stopped talking, I stopped holding my punches, you know, kind of alluding to like what happened after the death of, you know, her Gwen Stacy, right? His Gwen Stacy. And like he went dark, he like, so it was just interesting. Like it gave a little bit of a closure. It kind of gave a little bit of like an ending to his quote unquote, you know, series, I guess. And I really thought that was super cool. That was just, but like, yeah, the whole thing with MJ, you know, him pining on MJ when he talked about his Gwen and stuff like that. Totally awesome. Totally awesome.
Yeah, I definitely was a big fan of everything that kind of played out when it comes to what you said, right? Where it is a continuation of Andrew Garfield's story, and that culminates in a moment that we'll talk about in the final fight. But I also just want to I love this because I'm sure Gabe is someone who also went to the same youth group. I love that scene where they asked like Toby like, "Yo, like did you bring your suit or whatever, or are you gonna rock this like youth pastor look forever?" And I was like, bro, that hits a little too close to home. I know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It
I like
was good dynamic though.
I like how they gave like Toby a little ending too. Like you know, they talked about, oh yeah, we made it work. And I was like, oh man, like
and even just seeing them comfort each other, man, is so good.
Like I never realized I needed to hear that until I did. I was like, I am
they didn't
so
put
happy
too fine a point on it.
Yeah.
They kept it nice and vague. So if we want to make Spider-Man 4 or Amazing Spider-Man 3, we could see who wants to come back and go from there. But if that doesn't happen, then we get some closure, we get some progression, and everybody who likes these Spider-Men gets to feel good about it.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. It was too good. It was a pleasure. And this is really this is when at this point in the movie, I don't know how y'all are feeling, but for me, I was like, okay, this is like all-time great status. Like, this is like a movie where we are never going to see this again. This is a movie, well, who knows? They made a lot of money. Maybe we will see it again. But at that point, I was feeling like this is unprecedented. And I never thought in my life, I remember when they had announced MCU Spider-Man, I was like, it'd be really cool if they did like a Spider-Verse thing. I think that'd be pretty cool live action. But it probably won't ever happen. You know, like, the stars won't align, but we got it, man. And this is exactly what I wanted out of it. You know, transitioning into the final fight scene on the Statue of Liberty, where they're all just preparing, kind of like what Mark was saying, like, I loved seeing them all just like talk to each other,
it's
right?
Great.
And I almost wish there was more of it. Just that's how much I loved it. Just like I love that part where they're talking about how like Toby has organic webs, and they're like, so does it only come out of your
Just
wrists?
come out of your
Mhm.
cock too.
Yeah, like it's a relevant question, I'm sure, or even like just the way I think it was Andrew that said this, who was just like, I'm really happy I met both of you because I've always wanted brothers, sort of thing, and it's just,
Yeah,
damn man, like that
it's
hits home for me especially, like I get it, sort of thing.
it's gonna have a great gag reel and a great deleted scenes reel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I that's the thing. I remember when they were building the hype train for this back in the fall, and like I saw one of those like blurbs that come across like my feed,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, Tom Holland says, this is going to be like the Avengers Endgame of Spider-Man movies, and I was like, yeah, okay, pal. And then I saw it, and it's like, oh yeah, this isn't just Spider-Man another one. This is like they pulled out all the stops. This feels like something that's really worth my time while I'm watching it.
It
This
feels
was an
like the
event.
ending. It feels like the ending of every single one of their film sagas, right? This isn't just the
Yeah.
ending of the trilogy for Tom Holland. It feels like a culmination. It's like 3 different franchises, right, came together to make this one film, and that's the amazing part, man. It's a beautiful thing. So, let's just talk about the final fight scene. I'll be honest. I don't have a lot to say about this because it was really dark and it was a lot of CG. I still
Yeah.
had fun, but there's not too
It's
much.
good.
It's good. It just only truly elevates itself to great towards the end. But anything y'all want to say about this final like Statue of Liberty fight scene?
I just will throw out that I really liked the build up
Right.
to the climax of that fight,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because like we got to see them like, because
The
it wasn't
team.
just like we're Spider-Man, so we'll kick your butt, like we're super strong and insane. Like they didn't really know how to coordinate. They had to
Right.
figure that out on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did, like, wow, it was really, really cool to see like the choreographed stuff. Like I still think about that. I don't even remember how they did it, but that maneuver where like they're swinging
where
off
he,
of
like,
each other, and then like
flings
one of
them.
them just like flings them across the fucking thing, and I'm like,
Super
whoa,
cool.
this is sick.
Tom Holland got a lot of good stuff. He has one of my favorite little bits in the whole movie where he's doing the like video call with Jameson to lure them to the Statue of Liberty,
Right.
and he's explaining to them. He's like, yeah, if you guys are listening, like I was serious about wanting to help you. I could have killed you at any time very easily. Make no fucking mistake, but.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, where is here? He goes someplace that represents second chances. And he shows the Statue of Liberty. And it's like, that's such a cool line. I love it. Tom Holland gets to be cool finally
For
by the end
sure.
of this.
And something that Donovan said as well that I want to touch on as well. Not only is it really cool to see, but it's also it works from a character point of view, right? Because Tom Holland is right. He's the only one who's been on Avengers, which is a great gag, by the way. They were like, "Who the fuck are the Avengers?"
Yeah.
But it makes sense, right? He actually knows what it's like to fight on a team and something like that, and it makes sense why he leads them, right? Because he's the only one that knows how to coordinate all of them, that sort of thing. So it was pretty cool. But
It was a very clever little character thing. It's like you run the risk of having Tom Holland get overshadowed by the other 2 Spider-Men. And it's like, what can this kid bring to the table? And it's like, no, he's been on the Avengers, and he's gonna take charge in this one,
mm-hmm.
and that's why it's gonna work. And it's like, you know what? Good for that kid. Go for it. Hell yeah, dude.
Rise to the occasion, man. But Gabe, go ahead, man. Anything else you want to say here?
So just to sum up everything, I guess.
Yeah.
With my thoughts. Just going back on the one scene with when they're all talking, like when they built all the stuff to stop them in the high school lab.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's actually a really smart character.
Yeah.
He's actually smart, and the fact they're able to do that kind of show places to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like how Andrew Garfield's like, oh yeah, I built this once, I can do it again, and they were able to like figure out cures for all of them. I like their conversations, like we were saying. I like the callbacks when like Garfield fixes Toby's back, because everyone knows Toby always injures his back in his trilogy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I guess we didn't say this, but Garfield saving MJ.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
we were gonna get there, but dude, you want to lead it? Go ahead, man. I think that's a critical moment. Go ahead.
Oof, dude. Like, I knew we were all leading up to that, but the way it hit, the emotion,
Yeah.
the way it was acted, it was amazing. I really
I got a little bleary eyed.
I was gonna say I got emotional too watching it, man, because you know
didn't-
That was a
went
lot.
through. Yeah,
I didn't care about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man or Zendaya MJ before this movie, but by the end of it, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, this is great.
That was one of the scenes where I wish like I got to experience it in an empty theater. Like I don't know, for me it just takes me out of it when I just hear so many people start cheering and like
sure.
all sort of stuff. Like I want to feel the moment. I want to be engrossed in the moment. But
Mhm.
wow, that was just like seeing him actually catch her and like the look in his again it was more like don't tell me, show me. Like he
Right.
played
Yeah.
that so and she's just and she's oblivious to it. She
Mm.
has no fucking understanding of what that just did for him, the fact that he was able to save her.
Mhm.
And you know, wow, what a scene, man.
What a
See,
scene. Go
For
ahead, Mark.
me, the clapping almost enhanced that, because it's like, it's almost like that's Andrew Garfield's arc. Is he's the loser Spider-Man.
Right.
Mm.
He's the bum ass one from the shittiest movies. His girlfriend's dead, and now by the end of it, everybody in the house is cheering for Andrew Garfield, Peter
Mhm.
Parker.
Mhm.
Very
It's like,
fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to look at it. I like that.
One thing I want to touch on, because Gabe did kind of backtrack to the high school thing that I just kind of thought of. What a beautiful thing that, right? One of the things that in Sam Raimi's trilogy that Toby really struggles with, right, is the fact that he is sort of responsible for Norman's death, right? And what an amazing
Yeah.
thing for him to be able to redeem himself in that way and to like sort of like go back on that and to be able to cure the one person that he was, one of the people that he wasn't able to save in Norman, sort of thing, right? Even though Norman has done so much fucked up shit to him, sort of thing. What a beautiful thing. I think that's one thing I just thought of.
No,
The
totally.
death of the Green Goblin like fucked up, set so many things in motion for Tobey Maguire.
Right.
Like it caused him so much, that just that reflexive jump out of the way
Mm-hmm.
caused him so much strife. And it's like him catching the glider, just in the full context of the character and all these movies, him catching that glider is so satisfying and
Yeah.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a nice, satisfying movie.
Yeah. Just to go on that point,
Yeah,
what you're
go ahead,
saying,
Gabe.
like the two older Spider-Men help Tom Holland, like, because the two older ones went on a darker path,
Right.
like when, like you were saying, when
Uncle Ben.
Willem Dafoe dies, when he jumps out of the way, and when
Yeah.
Gwen dies, right? And then he admits to us that he went down a darker path. So I
Yeah.
really liked how those two Spider-Men, like you were saying with the siblings, stopped Tom Holland from almost killing William Dafoe and like saving his, Zendaya, and saving Tom Holland from going down the dark path they did. I really thought like the circle just goes around, and I totally awesome. Like I love that whole like the connection of all that stuff. Totally cool.
It was great, man, and even just the way that because I was really afraid that Toby was gonna die. I'm not gonna lie. That's where I thought they were gonna go. I'm glad that he survived, sort of thing. But I agree with you, man. Just seeing the way that they all cared for each other, and especially being that they're the more experienced Spider-Man, trying to like just like, hey, man, like just relax. It's okay, sort of thing. Like it's not gonna lead anywhere. Especially for, again, like we said before, Toby especially, he gets it, man. He got what he wanted when Uncle Ben died, and it didn't make him feel better, sort of thing.
Yep.
So it was just an amazing thing to just see them all kind of together and to make it happen. Brutal fight scene, by the way. Willem Dafoe, like, come on,
Yeah.
like, Jesus, man, what more can you say about this guy? Go ahead, Mark. You probably do have more.
I love how he gives the Green Goblin just these weird little ticks and moments. Like he really, like in the earlier scene when they're fighting, he really leans into like this mush mouth thing.
Mm-hmm.
He really like slurs his S's. Yeah, you tried to fix me, now I'm gonna fix you. And it's like, I don't know why you're doing that, but it works. And then he has a little like verbal tick thing in this one where like Tom Holland is trying to get a beat on him, and he like dodges it and he just whistles at him for a bit. just to fucking like antagonize him a little bit, and it's like what a great little choice. It adds so much personality to this performance.
Mm-hmm.
That Green Goblin is both sadistic and kind of a goofy weirdo, and that makes him more hateable.
Beautiful moment for sure. And I'll just quickly summarize some of the other stuff so we can get to the real meat and potatoes of this ending. But while this is all going on, Donovan's favorite character, Doctor Strange, is trying to repair the multiverse and make sure nothing else crazy happens. We see them cure the other villains relatively easily. I think Gabe pointed this out too. Seeing like the stock footage again, it was like, whatever. I get it.
Fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
I didn't quite. I thought it was funny, but in like zooming out a little bit when what's it called? Electro was like, "Yeah, I thought you were black or something." It was just like, it was funny. It was a good joke, but at the same time, it's like it really doesn't make sense if you think about it from a continuity perspective. Whatever, it's fine. But then, man, this ending where one Peter says goodbye to the other Peters, which is really good. Like just that goodbye is emotional, but. Man, like the way he said goodbye to Ned and MJ, bro, I was like about to tear up in the theater, bro. I was like, bro, like I can't do this right now. I can't. But Domin, how are you feeling, man, for those goodbyes?
I conflicted. I really, really liked all of the goodbyes with the Spider-Man. I thought those were good. And quick check then. No. Never mind. I'm thinking more of later in the coffee shop scene, but that's not really the goodbye. That's not really the goodbye. Well, I just wasn't a fan of it. So we don't have to get there. We can skip it. But like their moment together when like he's fixing everything and he just says goodbye to everyone. I really like the goodbyes with the Spider-Man and they're like with like the other Spider-Man. They're like kind of like final words with each other. I thought that was really nice. It was a good moment with Ned and MJ. I think of those goodbyes and like the promise of like, oh, I'll find you and like we'll figure it out. Because one doesn't get fulfilled, like he gives up on it, which I guess is fine, I guess. But two, there's also like the thing we alluded to where it's just like all these plot holes of like, how does this even make sense? Like, how is this going to be resolved? Like, what does this mean? Like, because we still find out Happy was still fucking banging Aunt May. Like, he was still hitting it. Like, he didn't forget about that one. But I don't know. I did appreciate it in the moment, but I feel like it didn't carry the weight because of the lack of follow through and the lack of and the abundance of plot holes.
Sure.
That's me.
Interesting. What about you, Gabe? How'd you feel?
I liked this whole goodbye. So I think one of the things I think we talked about was when Alfred Molina talked to Tobey Maguire again.
Oh yes, I forgot about that. That's right.
Yes,
just so hard. They said like 3 words, like 4 sentences to each other. I can even tell you, like, he's if I remember correctly, he has the arc reactor that got rid of Electro. It's like, power of your sun in palm of your hands. And then he says the power of the sun, and then Tobey Maguire is like in the palm of your hands, and then it's like, Peter, and he's like it's good to see you, like that. It's good to see
trying to do better,
like it hit so hard, it's good to see because he was talking to him, he was talking to us, we were talking to them, he was talking, and then he's like trying to do better, and Danny Elfman's score. Was like, it was just,
Okay, fair enough.
We gotta talk about the music.
It is.
I feel like
Danny Elfman theme, Spider-Man theme was like slow, very subtly in the background, and it was. They
incorporated it into the score,
it was just,
and it's like I feel like a lot of MCU movies struggle on that front of coming up with some like memorable music. Like you have some good ones, you have some bangers here and there. Everybody knows the Avengers theme,
right?
Driving with the Top Down, that's a good track. But it's like they've struggled to have some iconic stuff here and there. And I think this one works really well. One thing I really appreciated was during that whole goodbye scene, the music was allowed to get like melodramatic as fuck. There's like a chorus, and like it's swelling. It's like we're gonna really hammer in how tragic this is.
Yeah.
And I love that we get a nice bittersweet ending for this Spider-Man movie, where it's like the sacrifice is bitter, but on the other hand, because of that, everybody else gets a happy ending. Everybody, and not just the main cast. Everybody. Ned and MJ go to MIT. Toby gets to cure Norman and Octavius. Andrew gets to get over his baggage with letting Gwen fall. Ock gets cured. Sandman gets cured. Lizard gets cured. Electro gets cured. Osborn gets cured. Everybody's cured and happy and good.
And
the
alive.
only one who's got to carry that weight is Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And but even then, he gets that sweet ass new suit. He gets to have Spider-Man as a cathartic release, and it's like
Did
it's
you
so
guys-
nice.
Quick question: did you guys really think he was gonna come back? I thought he was gonna come back for them.
What do you mean? As in, go to the coffee
Like,
shop and tell them?
Go
What
to
do
the
you
coffee shop and admit. I actually that's why it didn't
I thought
hit
he
for
would.
me.
I legitimately thought too. Yeah, and that's why.
That's why it didn't hit me. I was like, oh, he's just gonna go introduce himself at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
But when he didn't do that, I was surprised. So that's why that goodbye scene didn't hit, because I, in the back of my head, thought, oh, he's just gonna go say hi to them afterwards.
He's just gonna undo it.
Yeah.
That's gonna be like the tie-in to the next movie or something. He never
There's
does.
the tension of well, what if it doesn't take? What if he
Right.
walks in and he's like, you don't know me, but I'm Spider-Man and we were dating and it goes horribly wrong. Oh no.
Mhm.
But that's why that coffee shop scene is it's honestly a contender for my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Oh, bro, I agree.
It's up there just for the little moment where he's getting rung up and he's about to say his little speech, and then he sees the bandage on her head.
Yeah.
And you don't need any dialogue; you just see it in his eyes.
Mhm.
Where it clicks, and he realizes this shit's gonna keep happening.
Mm-hmm. And suddenly he remembers.
Fuck the promise. I'm not making the same mistake that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And suddenly he remembers, with great power comes great responsibility.
Forever alone.
And it's so good. It's so good, man.
It's bad for me. I was so frustrated. I wanted it to be wrapped up with a neat bow. I know it all makes sense,
right?
And I know he's making the right decision, but I was just like, man.
But see, now I'm feeling something that I haven't felt for a very long time, which is I'm excited for where the MCU is going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, what's going to happen with Tom Holland next? Like, what could when I've been at work, me and all the people that work there, we've had still even as recently as this past weekend, we're still talking about where are they going with this next one?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to college? Is it going to team up with Daredevil?
Right.
Is the first scene going to be him knocking on Doctor Strange's door and being like, look, you don't remember this, but you cast a spell. How do we fix this? Is that going to be the plot? Is he going to get back with MJ?
Right.
I think this is a prime time to bring in Black Cat, but you could go. There's so many possibilities with where they could go with this, and that's why I love how this ended, because it's we could do anything with this. I'm excited for where it's going. I like where we're at, and I'm intrigued with where they could take it from here. And I haven't felt that about a Marvel movie in a really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Hits. Go ahead.
Well,
Gabe.
we know where it is going in the MCU. We know where it's going because they were kind enough to just say, fuck it. We're gonna throw a trailer for the next movie at the end of this shit.
Right.
We're not gonna fucking make any scenes. We're
It's
just gonna
just
give you the
putting the
fucking trailer. We're putting the trailer in. So we know where it's. I was so fucking mad about that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I fucking hated the post-credit scenes for this movie.
Listen,
dog shit.
Listen, Donovan, at least they're better than Eternals, where we had no idea what the fuck was happening.
I would have rather had Eternals. I would have rather had Eternals.
Harry Styles, though.
I would have rather had
Harry
Eternals.
Styles.
Don't.
Bro, we had a collab with Nintendo in Eternals. Okay, what did we get here? I could have watched that shit on YouTube the next day. That was a waste of my time.
Gabe, anything else you want to say on these last scenes, man?
Are we into, I guess, spoiler, the post credit scenes?
Anything, whether it be the ending or the post credit scenes, that sort of thing.
I really liked the ending. Like you guys were saying, it can go anywhere, and it really leaves how Spider-Man should be, a poor everyman, down on his luck kind of guy. and I think that's something that's always been criticized of Tom Holland Spider-Man, because he always kind of
Yeah.
like got everything. He has all this Iron Man tech. He has this League of Superheroes that kind of like break his story a little bit. But now he's exactly where the comics usually bring him. So it can go anywhere, like you were saying, Mark, and I think that's hella exciting. Um, Post credit scene, I thought it was interesting. I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because when I saw Venom, right, and when I saw that J. Jonah Jameson scene, you're promised like a bill of rights. Like
Yeah.
you expect this, and we were not promised that at all. Like I didn't see Tom Hardy punch the shit out of Tom Holland, and I'm kind of disappointed about that. I'm gonna be honest.
That Venom scene was funny, but it
It
hurt.
was funny,
It
yeah.
really fucking
But my
hurt.
thing was like, what's the point? Like you could have led to a Sinister Six, but you
That was
left it at
fucking
5 because one was too
stupid.
strong, which I liked. It was kind of funny. That'd be me.
Because that post credits, like when I saw when I did Venom, it's like I had that post credit scene spoiled for me literally the day that we did the employee show for that, and so I was in there like knowing like, all right, this is what's gonna happen. Even then, like the air was electric. People were popping off the second they heard J.K. Simmons on that TV, and he like even I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, here we go, and it's like the sheer scale of fuck you that this joke was, I almost respect it. It's like, you know what, this is pretty funny just for how much of a middle finger this is. But goddamn, like, could we find some way, please, to put Tom Holland and Tom Hardy on screen together? I feel like that would be a blast. It would be easy money, please. Come on.
That's why I feel like they ran out of budget or something. Like that's I don't know. That's just my little gripe about that. But it was a great. I don't know. I think the trailer scene kind of
It's a
disappointing.
fine.
But
Yeah.
honestly, like this whole movie was kind of a setup to the multiverse. If you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, in general, Phase 4 has been a lot about the multiverse. Like Loki was all about the multiverse, sort of.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
So
I was worried about the emphasis on multiverse stuff because I feel like that's going to be like the new play for these superhero movies, where it's like, oh,
Mark,
you're not. What's that? Nobody's interested in the Flash movie. Well, what if we put Michael Keaton in it? You like those Batman? Remember
Mark.
those movies?
Listen to me, Mark. There's only one Flash story. It's called Flashpoint, apparently.
Yeah,
There's
right.
only ever one of them. It's like, don't. I'm not even gonna keep going.
Remember this movie you liked from 30, 40 years ago? What if we put that in this? Then will you buy a ticket? And it's like I saw the writing on the wall where I was just like, oh no, this is when this whole thing turns to shit. But what it doesn't matter if we have any consequence because we could just bring in a multiverse guy.
Mhm.
Oh, Iron Man's back. He's from another multiverse.
Yeah.
He's just here now, and that's when these superhero movies start to have the problem of superhero comics and that there's no consequence to anything because there's a multiverse. So you could just bring back anybody from anything and have them do anything. But what I love about this one is that this is a multiverse story that has consequence because it puts all of the emotional stakes not on like, oh yeah, this is one of infinite lizards. This is one of infinite Green Goblins. These are 3 of infinite Spider-Mans. It's like, no, these are all individual guys, and you want to see them turn out okay.
Mm-hmm.
It lowers the scale, the scope of this immense thing, and makes that the emotional core of the movie. And that's why I think it works. Will the other multiverse stuff pay off? I don't know. I'm still a little dodgy, but if they do it the way this one did it, then I think they could pull it off.
My concern here is these Spider-Men we knew growing up.
Yes.
Like Adam was saying, there will
That's a
never
big
be
part of it,
another
too.
movie like this because there is not another property like Spider-Man that's been like this.
Hey, don't say that. They're gonna do Batman No Way Home next year, bro.
I mean,
Someone made a tweet about it. I can't remember who did it, but it was this really really like cogent point where some like bullshit clickbait site or whatever, they were like, what superhero franchise would you like to see get the Spider-Verse treatment next? You know, a movie with all the Batmans, a movie with all the Iron Man, with all the Hulks. And someone just quote tweeted, and they were like, Spider-Man No Way Home is going to become the new Shrek in that it does something really, really well, and then everybody tries to copy it and does it shittily, and then we're retroactively going to assume that the original one was a big piece of shit because we're going to get flooded with mediocre multiverse stories.
Mm.
And that's exactly what's going to happen.
I don't
This
know what
thing's
you're
making
talking
$1 billion.
about. Shrek is a masterpiece.
I like
one thing I do want to say that I think we all forgot to mention, there was that money shot in the Statue of Liberty scene where all three
Yes.
Spider-Men land
Oh.
in that one shot. Bruh.
Mm.
It's going to be a lot of good desktop wallpapers when this hits
Yeah.
Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, it was really good. I don't know how I feel about the whole thing with Venom. I thought it was a funny enough scene. I just don't. Man, I'm so sick of the whole symbiote stuff. Mark, I don't care. I read Absolute Carnage. Okay, I read King in Black. I don't care as much as other people do. I watched Venom 1. I watched it with Donovan. It wasn't a good movie. It was funny, but it wasn't a good movie. The best part of about that movie is when Tom Hardy is in the lobster like
the lobster
thing.
tank.
That's the best part of the movie. But yeah, it didn't really do much for me in terms of like, oh, I can't wait to see Tom Holland do the symbiote stuff. It's just like,
I was saying I think that little droplet of venom goo that twitches to tease that, I think that's gonna be like the new Thanos in that like Avengers came out and it had a little post-credit scene where Thanos is there and he just turns and smiles at the camera.
Mhm.
And then Marvel said, yup, we'll come back to this in like 10 or so years. We could just sit on this, and anytime anybody starts to lose interest, we'll just go, but remember, this guy's coming.
You don't think it's gonna be Mephisto?
And that's going to be the thing where they can. It's got to crawl all the way from Mexico. That can take 10. That could take 20 years. Who the fuck cares? But once people start losing interest, they could just go, remember the symbiote's there. We're going to do the symbiote with Tom Holland. Keep watching. It's coming. It's coming.
I don't know.
We'll see.
It's gonna be one of those long play things where
We'll
they could
see.
just pop it out whenever they need an idea.
We'll see. All right, so we've gone through the entire movie, boys. Is there anything else y'all want to bring up about anything specific you want to call out? I know Mark specifically, you talked about a little bit of the score before we get to our final ratings and closing thoughts.
I'm just gonna say I really loved this movie. I think it was a fantastic film. They did so good in every aspect. Is it perfect? No, nothing is.
Mhm.
Are there problems? Yes. But it was such a good time. It was so good. I loved
It's
it.
just fun.
It was great. It was everything I wanted it to be and more.
Yeah.
And you know, if Marvel makes, I want them to make at least one more movie that was as great as this one is. Just one more. That's all I ask.
I believe
It's not
in
going to be
Kevin
Doctor
Feige.
Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I tell you that right now. I'll fucking send the leak right now. It's not going to be that one.
I believe in Kevin Feige. If there's one man I believe in, it's him for sure. But yeah, Mark, go ahead on the score because I know you want to touch on that.
Oh no, I was just saying. I think like I've caught myself like humming the little Tom Holland Spider-Man theme.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like they did a nice job with it. I like the way it incorporated the older Spider-Man motifs. I wish there was a little bit more of that, but I could see why they didn't want to
Overshadow.
lean too heavily on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's just this is a very hard film to dislike.
I agree. All right, it seems like we're ready for our closing thoughts and final ratings. And so, Gabe, we're going to start off with you first, man.
Oof. So final thoughts. This movie was amazing. Like I said before, I think the fact that it speaks to it people of all generations, you know, adults teenagers, kids that I treat love this movie is cute. It's just a testament how awesome it is. I think few movies are what you consider an event, and I think this movie was an event. And I think we'll be talking about this one for years to come, for sure. Um, I loved it, absolutely loved it. As a rating, I will rate it 10 multiverses out of 10.
Ooh,
Woohoo.
10 out of 10. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna throw a little curveball at you, game. Where does it rank among like is it first in your Spider-Man movie rankings? Where does it rank? Where does it fall?
So I guess, can I explain my 10 out of 10? I know there was
Sure.
problems in it. If you think about it too much, it falls apart a little bit. But you know what? I think I know we talked about this, Adam. So, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 is one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time, right? But I think this might be my top now. Because it wraps up all three Spider-Men, and that's hard to do in a satisfying manner. It was an event. It got me to watch a movie in a movie theater again. You know, I've seen the impact of Spider-Man from my patients. I have to rate it a 10, and I think it's the best movie out of all the Spider-Man movies. And
There it is.
There
There
it
you
is.
have it. Okay. All right. Donovan, how about you?
If I had to give it a rating, okay, I think it's very difficult in this world to rate movies, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If I had to give this movie a rating, I'm gonna have to give it. This is a difficult question. Okay. I'm gonna give it 9 Willem Dafoe cackles out of 10. You and me, Spider-Man. We can rule this universe, or we can fight to the death. The choice is yours. All right, yeah, 9 out of 10. I think as far as my rankings of best Spider-Man movies, the best of the best, it's number 3.
Number 1 is Spider-Verse. Number 2 is Spider-Man 2, I'm assuming.
Number 1 is Spider-Verse.
Interesting.
Number two
He's going to say Spider-Man 3. Oh,
is
never
Spider-Man 3.
mind.
Number 3 is No Way Home.
Pizza time.
It's pizza time, baby. Pizza time.
There we go. Mark, how about you, man? As probably the biggest Spider-Man fan here, closing thoughts and final rating.
This movie is a blast. I mean, I've seen it 3 times so far, with very minimal fallout. It's one of those movies where I catch myself thinking about it, and like the more I think about it, the more I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's not perfect, and it's not like, I won't call it like in a sophisticated film. It's so much of this is designed to make you clap at Spider-Man stuff,
right?
But like what it sets out to do, it does exceptionally well, and it feels really, really good to enjoy a superhero movie this much again. I was getting real cynical about it, but this one gives me hope. Like, nah, if there's smart people with good intentions, you can come out with a really enjoyable, entertaining popcorn movie. I had a blast with this. Yeah, no, it's a great time.
No official rating, just a great time.
I'd feel weird giving it a 10 out of 10.
Uh-huh.
But spill scale, it's better than sex. It's great.
Ooh, he said it.
Absolutely.
This is the first time anyone's used that rating on the podcast, I think.
Legit?
Yeah.
No,
Really?
it's a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as
with you
the
there,
ranking,
boss man. But go off.
as far as the ranking amongst other Spider-Man movies, It's easily in the top 5 somewhere, possibly in the top 3. It's great as far as superhero movies go. It's great as far as Spider-Man movies go. It's great
Mm-hmm.
as far as the MCU goes. It's great. If they've got plans of this caliber for the rest of whatever phase we're in, then you know what? Sign me up. I'll be there. It's this is they still got it. They could still do it if they try. So let's see where this goes.
They still got it, man. Okay. Where do I even begin? This is a genuine triumph, boys. We've talked about it before, throughout this entire review. But this is a genuine triumph. I don't think we're ever going to see this again. I think it's a testament to the quality of this movie that the box office is so high. I think we're at something like $1.7 billion box office, right? That's during a pandemic. It also hasn't even been released in China yet. Like it's unprecedented to have that kind of audience reception, and it just shows how much people love this film. It was amazing to see all 3 Spider-Men on screen together. That was something that I never thought I would see. I always hoped for, but here we are. I'll tell you this, in some ways I liked it better than the Spider-Verse comic. But I think that's something that Marvel does really, really well. They know how to take the best parts of certain comic books and kind of adapt them for the screen. Mark could tell you all about it. One More Day, which is kind of what this is based on. Not a great comic, pretty bad actually, but they managed to make it work, and it's a testament to Kevin Feige and company that they love these characters so much, and they're able to, turn these things into something that's truly, truly amazing and kind of transcendental in that way. This is a movie that we're probably never going to see. I haven't had a theater experience like this since Endgame. And it's a testament to say that Marvel has been able to do that twice, sort of thing, right? No one else has been able to really kind of pull off that sort of audience reaction. But honestly, if I'm gonna keep it real, like part of why I love this movie so much is because of the experience I had watching it. Yes, there was a theater experience, but also watching it with Mark, watching it with the rest of the boys was amazing, especially after so long since we hadn't seen each other because of the pandemic. And then afterwards, Mark, we went to B Dubs and we talked about it more. And we finally got everyone together. The waitress was super nice. We got to watch Logan Paul versus Tyrone Woodley for free. We got to see him get knocked out. It was great. And we made the waitress's day. Man, it was just to me, it's such a great, great memory. And I want to watch it again for sure. But just like everything surrounding it, plus the movie, this is one of those times where a movie, I had really high expectations. And I think Donovan said this, it blew them away, like sort of thing, right? And I can't really think of any other times that's really happened for me, at least not off the top of my head. So this is unequivocally, easily a full price. Top 3 Spider-Man movie for sure. I want to watch it again just to compare, because Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2 are definitely up there. But I love this movie, man. This is a genuine triumph. And kind of just like what Mark said and what we're all saying, I'm excited to see what else Marvel has cooking up. I think that there's so much potential here. I love where they leave Peter off, and I think there's so much more things that they could play. There's so many things that they could do in this sandbox, and I'm just excited to see it for sure. Okay. Well, we've been talking for almost 3 hours now, so I don't want to keep any of you guys, longer. Starting off with you, Gabe, any shout outs you want to give, words you want to say to the people? How can they follow you?
Shout outs to the vaccine. Please get it. As a doctor. I know I didn't give any information, but if you guys want to follow me on my Instagram, I need followers. Gabe.pointy. Let's do that.
I'll put it in the description. Don't worry, boys.
Thanks, man.
Excuse me, listeners.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. Donovan, any shout outs you want to give? Words you want to say to the people? How can they follow you?
Listen, you already know my first shout out, okay? Shout out to the East Boys for always holding it down, okay?
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. You know what I'm saying, okay? Shout out to the East Boys, okay? Second, we're just vibing out here, okay? Go see Spider-Man. Go see something that's going to make you happy. Go get vaccinated. Shout out to the vaccine. That's really holding it down. The 5G has been setting my spirits high. I've never felt better. So fucking get it. It's great. And lastly, if you want to follow me, I guess on Twitter, I'm at Donovan IDK. It'll probably link somewhere. I just retweet random shit. that I think is cool and cute. And that's it. We're vibing.
That's it. And Mark, it's been a while. I actually realized, Mark, you were on the Mortal Kombat review, so I apologize. So it still has been a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I apologize on that. But hey, it's been a long time. Any shout outs you want to give, words you want to say to the people, how can they follow you?
Check out. I've got a new YouTube channel, newish. It's called Creature Feature with 2 E's for both of those. It's far from regular uploads, but I throw some stuff up there every once in a while. I put out a a video on Ghostbusters Afterlife that I'm pretty happy with, but other than that, nothing much.
Okay, man. I'll definitely make sure to put that in the description. Of course, I want to give a big shout out to all of you who listen to this review or watch this review. Absolutely means the world. You could literally be doing anything else, but the fact that you're doing listen to us talk about movies and stuff like that, it really means a lot. So if you like this content, again, please subscribe or like it, share it, tell your friends about it. I think that'd be amazing. You could tell them all about how Donovan hates Doctor Strange, and also you can spread the word. Be a good person in the theater. Do not say, "Hey, that's that guy from Fortnite in the theater." Please, it's important. It's an important. That's an important PSA. I agree. Also, please, take care of yourselves and get vaccinated. All that other stuff. You're going to go see this movie. Of course, be safe. Make sure you're in prime condition to do so. One other thing I want to say too. Something that Marvel has certainly been kind of lacking, and I always make sure we shout this. I want to give a big shout out to all the creators and artists, all those other people who have contributed to this entire Spider-Man mythos. Stan Lee, your Steve Ditko's, your Jerry Conways, Seth MacFarlane's, Dan Slott's, J.M. Straczynski's, all those people, man. Very much so. These movies are built on the shoulders of giants, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that Marvel hasn't been able to quite highlight those creators and give them their due. In ways that certainly are indicative of the kind of success that these movies see. And I think it's unfortunate, but hopefully that kind of changes in the future. But the other thing I also want to say is big shout out to everyone who worked on this movie too, right? We talk a lot about what we see on screen, but there's a whole army of people who make kind of these movies possible. I want to give a big shout out to them because they created something truly, truly incredible that will test the time, stand the test of time, excuse me. And you should all be very, very proud of that. Absolutely. But yeah, that's all I have to say. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Adam_bomb, bomb with 2 M's. Follow me on Letterboxd as well. Of course, all these links will be in the description. But again, appreciate all of you. I appreciate all my lovely guests that came onto this review as well. Had a blast talking about this amazing movie. I knew it was a little bit late, but I'm happy that we're able to get it all together. But otherwise, we'll see you for the next review, which should be coming very soon, hopefully. We'll see. But until then, take care of yourselves and peace.